Yeah. How'd that happen? I just hit go live again, but I don't know if that'll work. Ooh. Were you watching? Were you watching it? How did you know? Your phone call dropped? Oh. Well, it says hello. It says one person's here. Okay.
Like nothing.
Dang. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My internet dropped after I spent several minutes making sure that it was the highest speed possible. So who really has a bad life? It's me. Everyone pity me because I had a slight inconvenience. Keep coming back to the show. I don't know why it wouldn't go back to the original stream title. So now it's just called live stream and it looks like absolute crap. So I'm sorry about that. But we're gonna carry on. This is very sad for everyone involved, but most importantly, me. Me. Me.
Me.
Me, 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 me.
Me.
Me. Okay, sorry about that. Welcome back. And just as we were asking what happened to dinosaurs, the dinosaur ghost attacked. Why can't, yeah, just while everyone files back in, why don't we ever get dinosaur spirit guides? I'm sure they have some wisdom to bestow upon us. Like, we always talk about our ancestors as like our ancestors, humans. But what about the ancestors that lived on the earth before? Won't they have knowledge about like things on earth? These are things I would like answered, Rachel. Okay. There is so much drama whenever the stream goes off. Most importantly, when it's Dave Ramsey. That's when the most drama comes up. All right. Everybody, if you have a problem with me having dial-up internet, then this is what I have to say to you.
Unfollow me.
Okay, this is what I get because no one will join my membership. I'm just kidding. No, everyone that's joined the membership, thank you so much. But also,
unfollow me.
And guys, I've changed my mind about parasocial relationships. I've changed it. Okay, I'm rooting for you. Actually,
I love you.
Okay, now say it back.
I love you too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, all right, here we go. We're going back. So if you're new here, we got 20 seconds into this podcast and then my internet went out. So let's go back. Yeah. So to catch you up, Rachel's going on vacation because she's in the hard. She's had to do her tour that no one wanted except for her. So now that she's tired from that, which granted, I probably agree that traveling across the country is tiring. She's going to take a vacation and get some sun. Here we go.
Higher vibes.
I'm going back. Here we go. Just starting from the beginning. Forget it. We're starting from the over.
Into the monitor on this video, and I am reminded that it has been a long time since I've been out in the sun. I need a little vampire vibes. I need some sun. I'm excited though, because at the end of this month, I'm going on a vacay to celebrate wrapping up tour and a bunch of big projects that are coming to fruition finally. And so we're going to go celebrate.
Isabel Amanda, thank you. Isabel Amanda sent a red heart.
I love you. I love you too.
There you go. And thank you, Isabel, for
Being a dick.
Oh, wait. For not
Being a dick.
Okay, you can just
Unfollow me.
Thank you. Thank you, Isabel.
By laying in the sun and drinking tequila, and I am very ready for that. But first, we're going to talk about things I don't do anymore. We're going to talk about things I don't do anymore. You may have seen me speak on the idea of a full moon and of using the full moon as...
You're going to hear me talk about the idea of a full moon. I don't think it's an idea, Rachel. I think a full moon is whether you want to have a concept of it or not. Just want to say, we don't need the Rachel Hollis lens of the concept and theory of the full moon, personally.
This great opportunity to let go of things that no longer serve you. One of the most popular episodes of the podcast is about my full moon rituals and how my friends and I started having full moon dinners. And really, it was just, we use a full moon. You could use any day you want to. But essentially, the idea is that you pick one day a month and you ask yourself, what do you need to let go of? What are things in your life that are no longer serving you?
Every time she brings up any podcast episode, any of them, she's like, that was one of the most popular episodes. That was the most popular episode. So now I used to think like she was telling the truth, which dum-dum shouldn't have said that. And that dum-dum comment came from Bethany Frankel. And then now it's in my head and I'm thinking of calling myself dum-dum all day. But dum-dum me, I'm like, oh, she probably is telling the truth. But now I think anytime she brings up any other podcast episode that's not the episode that we're currently listening to, it's like one of the most popular episodes ever was this one. It's like, okay. Okay, Rachel, I no longer believe. Because how could they all be the most popular? There's like 20 that she's mentioned, like the relationship one, the energy healing one, the moon ritual one, okay. And then she also forgot that she said her kids and her have the moon ritual dinners. She said at first it was her friends, but then she changed it and said, no, now it's the neighborhood teenagers and her kids. And then now she's back to, my friends and I. So I don't think it exists at all. Basically, if you don't remember who you're having these amazing dinners with, they probably don't exist.
Into all the details about how we came up with this practice and why we came up with this practice. But for today's episode, I thought I would actually share with you some of the things that I have given up, that I no longer do, that I no longer use, that I no longer participate in. Because oftentimes when we hear someone else tell their story, even if we don't follow the exact same path, it helps us to figure out some ideas of our own. So that's my intention for today. These are not controversial, but I guess maybe surprising. Maybe surprising to some of you, maybe not. Definitely surprising to a younger version of me who wouldn't have believed I'd ever be at a place where I would have stopped doing these things, let alone talk about them publicly. But that's where we're at.
She's already fully exploited her peeing her pants. At a certain point, even the people who applaud peeing your pants stories are going to get sick of peeing your pants stories. So we're at the point now where it's like you need to move on. We still want to deal with the region at large, the genital region. So now she's starting to talk about pooping herself or pooping generally, I guess, at concerts. And so that, maybe that didn't go over so great. So now we're going to talk about the hair region. You got to fully exploit that area as much as possible. So I think that's where we're at with this, with number one on the list.
I don't do any more. Number one, shave my bikini line regularly. That is where we are going to jump in, is with my pubic hair. Right. It's a lot to just go there first, but let's talk about this. When I was married, that was my first ever real relationship of any kind with a man, with anybody. That was my first relationship. I made that sound like I had long toured affairs with women. which would be fun. But no, I never experienced that. So
would that be fun for you, Rachel, as a straight, I'm assuming, woman? Okay. I've noticed lately too, and I was going to, I'm glad that I remembered to bring it up. I haven't cut the sound bites, and I should, but in the Lisa Bilyeu interview, she had mentioned that her doctor, who is a woman, presumably, Dr. Brush, she's like, I love my doctor so much, I wish I could make out with her. I was like, okay. And then she also mentioned something else about making out with Kimberly, maybe, or one of her other guests. She had made a joke about somebody else who was a woman, was like, I would make out with you if I could. So that's her new thing, to say that she appreciates something, but specifically only talking about women, apparently. So just wanted to put that out there. There seems to be a new theme occurring.
In my marriage, that was my first real relationship, and I sort of was informed on how my body was supposed to be, how my sexuality was supposed to be, how I was supposed to look and act and behave based on, I don't know, like TV, Victoria's Secret ads, the things I saw in Sex and the City, the things I read inside of Cosmo circa, 2003. I definitely was just really misinformed about what was sexy and what was, I don't know, the way that I'm using air quotes if you can't see me, but like the way that a woman is supposed to be. And I think when we don't know what we're supposed to do, we emulate someone else. We emulate the vision that we have. It's why media and representation inside of media is so important, because if you don't see someone like you, or if you don't see someone like the version that you want to be, you run the risk that you'll follow a path that is not aligned with who you are, simply because you don't have an alternative. So for me, I had all of these, late 90s, early 2000s influences of what women were supposed to aspire to and what we needed to do to, quote, please our man, and, know how to give the world's greatest blowjob, and know how to wear the sexiest underwear, and like be like a porn star while you were having sex, and just all of this stuff. Maybe you have a different upbringing or a different influence than I did. That's definitely not what I was learning from like church or things I was supposed to be influenced by, but I absolutely was. And along those lines was this belief that I had that my pubic hair needed to always be groomed, manicured, be very little. I mean, there was like regular bikini line area life, which was just sort of shaved and high and tight, as it were. And then there was like vacation. I can only think of real terms right now. So I'm like, then there was vacation labia, but I promise you, nobody's calling it that. Then there's what happened to.
Okay, so vacation labia obviously is going to be a soundbite, because come on. But I think it's interesting. She's like the goodest good girl you've ever met.
The best, goodest good girl you ever met in your life.
Sorry, the best goodest good girl you've ever met in your life. But now all of a sudden she's like, I was forced to perform blowjobs because Cosmo told me to. It's like, I thought you were like this like innocent church bunny rabbit mouse who Dave, met, and you never had ever met anyone else in your life, and you're like very naive. And I mean, I'm not saying that she's still not, she can't be both, but it's sort of like retelling of the story. Like now she's free. Thank you so much. Now she's free. Stephen cameo on the side. Now she's, sexually free, and she's talking about making out with women, and she wishes she could, which, okay, if you really wanted to, you could do that, Rachel. It's a free country. But, I don't know. It just seems like it's a new narrative. Like, oh, I was just crazy, and now I'm going to be, or I was forced into this like Victoria's Secret bubble, which she never really claimed to be pressured by before. But now that she's a hippie, now it's like, oh, I used to be like that. I'm just a little confused about her background because I thought it was like, I just believed the husband was the most important thing, and I was a buttoned up church girl because my daddy's a preacher. And now she's like, nah, I was just all about, you know, shaving my vagina and giving blowjobs. It's like, oh, I didn't know that existed. I'm sorry, I misunderstood something.
The girl when I was going on vacation, which was to get a Brazilian wax. If you're not familiar with that special form of torture, it's like a landing strip essentially, which I don't even understand. I actually don't understand.
Neither do I.
The bikini wax that just leaves the tiniest little bit of pubic hair. It's like a weird upper lip mustache. Like it makes no sense to me. Like, ooh, this is sexy, but also don't worry, like there's a little bit of pubic hair. Like where I don't even want to look up the origin of this concept because I'm sure it would depress me. Just F the patriarchy, and it's all so jacked up. But I didn't know.
F the patriarchy. Rachel, it's so funny how she chooses to curse, and I guess I do the same thing sometimes. And there is YouTube rules, like if you're, I think it's like 10 minutes in, you're not supposed to curse because it could get like an adult warning. But if you're 10 minutes into it, like you can curse as much as you want as long as it's within reason. So it's funny how she chooses to, like, you know, she can say this,
I do not give a fuck.
But then the next podcast is like, I don't, F the patriarchy. It's so funny. And also, you know, yes, the patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. Obviously it's real. Obviously it's a thing, but it's like, you are part of the patriarchy in the sense of like using women to profit and make women feel bad about themselves so they buy more of your product. I mean, that's, whether you're female or male or something else, that to me is a patriarchal thing to do, personally. You know, I don't care if it's a man doing it or a woman doing it. If you're, you know, holding women back because you're making them feel bad about themselves, to me, you're a part of the problem.
So whenever I would go on vacation, I definitely would, you know, it's like that scene in 40-Year-Old Virgin. Everything's being waxed. I'm screaming. The front, the butt, all of it. And I really hated that process, to be honest with you, because it hurts. But I definitely like when everything's sort of neat and tidy. And when you get a wax, you have a lot more time before it comes back. So there were things about it that I liked. But all of this to say that my experience with the hair on my labia was based on someone else's ideal of sexy. If you get a bikini wax...
Whose idea, though? I thought you just said it was easier for you and that's what you wanted. So who? Dave was like, I require you to have a Brazilian? I don't think so. I doubt it. But whose? Like, society's? I don't know. It's sort of like... You have to take some responsibility and go, I like this style because everyone seemed that's what they told me in high school. And like, I don't know. But she's like, yeah, like I didn't like it. It's like, it sounded like you did like it though. And now you have someone else who's influencing you. So now you're like, okay, now I'm going to like something different. That's not really like making a change because you've decided what's good for you necessarily. That's sort of just like changing yourself via the trends, which is like what she's famous for.
Whether that's a Brazilian or just a little cleanup or you take it all off and it makes you feel very sexy, freaking here for that. I love that for you. Embrace it. Embrace yourself. Embrace your heart. I will say as a side note, when you are waxed, there's more sensation. So that made vacation extra fun. There were pluses to this.
Is that true? Is that accurate? How would she know the difference if she's been doing that since she was married, which was at 21 years old? How would you know that, Rachel? Rach, please cite your sources.
But in the last couple of years, I guess, I really started to question why I feel this need to keep like as little hair on my body as possible. Now, I'm still shaving my legs, still shaving my pits. I'll take that with me to the grave, I'm sure. That one's too ingrained.
So this part was confusing because I was like, wait, okay, so I think it's because no one can judge her but her boyfriend and herself, because this is something she's telling you. So she's taking the power back by explaining, like, I don't shave anymore. But she's going to, in a second, say, like, well, I do if I'm at the beach, or I do if I'm out in public. I do if I'm, so 25 caveats. But when I'm home by myself, like, I don't care if it's free. Okay, great. That's pretty much how a lot of people live. Like, if no one's gonna be perceiving them, who cares? Like, all of this doesn't matter. Why would we wear makeup, if you weren't going out in public? I mean, some people like it, but a lot of people probably wouldn't put the time in. I wouldn't ever. I don't a lot of times put makeup on because of the perception. Thanks, James. But okay, your pits and your legs, that's seen more in public. And then, oh no, I'm drawing the line at that. It's like, okay, so you're really making this a private thing, but you're making a public statement about how it makes you so enlightened, more so probably than anyone else. I'm looking for your comment, James. I don't see it. Hold on. I'm searching you. Oops. James. Nope. It's not coming up for me. I'm so sorry. Well, thank you for your, wait, is that it? No. Comment again, James. I missed it. It showed up, but then I'm not seeing the actual comment itself. So let me know what you wanted to say. I will not silence you.
When it comes to our genitals, this was just, it started to feel more and more weird to me. I think, I'm not going to lie, if I could shave and keep things neat and tidy without any side effects, I would do it, and you and I wouldn't even be having this conversation. But I have tried everything in the world, and I still get pretty bad razor burn, and I get ingrown hairs. I know y'all did not want to hear about my hoo-ha today, but here we are. So every time I try, and
I have nothing else to talk about because I am not qualified to give any advice to anybody, and my career is in the toilet gate. So, here we are. This is what I've come to, and this is what you're subjected to if you choose to listen.
Keep things manicured, I'm dealing with all of these negative side effects that feel worse than just having more hair. So I started thinking about it for a while, and I've been dating my boyfriend for a little over a year and a half.
Oh gosh.
And
so that's sort of okay. So she got divorced, announced a divorce in June 2020. So now she's saying that it's been a year and a half since they've been dating. So that would mean to me about 6 months, not a year since she got divorced that she met her boyfriend. Am I doing that math correctly? So before the year anniversary of their divorce, she was already with Kez. That's what it sounds like to me. So she's not far behind Heidi and Dave.
Yes, too, in a new relationship, I had certain ideas about needing to show up again in a specific way, but I am dating the most evolved, like, spiritual, hippie human being. And I just was like, I bet he could not care less about this. And I know, y'all, I could present myself to you in this conversation and say, like, F the men, I don't care. I did it for me. I changed for me.
Sometimes I watch it back and it's like,
I did care what he thought. I wasn't basing all of my decisions on that, but I did care what he thought. And you could be like, you're not a strong enough feminist. That's okay. Like, we all got our stuff. Let this be mine. But I had started to think, like, this is crazy. Why am I doing this? This is, like, gross. And
I don't know what's going on with the double stream, but it looks like everyone's here. So if you have a comment, I'll make sure to look for it faster. Because I'm trying to search. I can search here, but it's not letting me search like I normally do. I don't know why. Everything's screwed up. The one thing I wanted to point out in that little soliloquy she just did, so her boyfriend is the most evolved man ever, which, okay, give me a break. But he's a big hippie. Okay, so it's just a random coincidence, and now Rachel's also the biggest hippie and way more woo-woo than you are.
am I the only hippie
Hi. Okay. I don't know what happened with the stream. I'm so sorry. Thank you everyone for figuring it out. Hopefully we'll all condense and combine together. It's my fault. It's my internet's fault. It's my team. That is the internet. It's their fault. But yeah, like I just, she's trying to make it seem like I'm my own person. I have nothing. I hate Dave. Dave sucks. I'm just this woman who's independent. Okay. But now she gets with a new boyfriend and he's a hippie. Oh, now all of a sudden I'm a hippie. My whole entire personality changes. It's like, come on, we can read between the lines here, Rachel.
Buying into some mythology about women's bodies, and it's not something I need to participate in. But I did say, I was just like, hey, out of curiosity, is this a thing? And he was like, what? No. Oh my God. Like, what are you? Do whatever. Like, be free. Go do you. You're beautiful. Which I knew he was going to say anyway, but it's just nice, I guess, to have your partner's buy-in if you're going to go like back to 1972 down in the undercarriage. So yeah, just to paint like a full picture, I basically let her.
Isn't that the whole point? Like, you don't need man's approval. You can just, because if you needed a man's approval, then you would have to get it waxed if he wanted you to get it waxed. But because, you don't need a man's approval because you're your own person. Like, isn't that the whole point of this? Like, if you're just asked, like, what do you prefer? You're just doing what he prefers. Isn't that the same thing you did before? I'm assuming that's what she's saying. So what's different? All you've changed is partners. You haven't changed your independence and your authority of your own body. Personally, it sounds like to me.
Go into the point where like things start to grow down into places that it would feel weird. Like, oh, you have a wig in your panties, like things are coming out of the underwear. I keep that in check, and I do trim it because, wow, this is a lot more information than I ever thought I was going to talk to you guys about. When I am running long distance, I wear like tight running shorts. And frankly, if there's too much bush, I'm just going to be honest, it like starts to feel uncomfortable for me. So I keep her trim with some scissors. I keep the outgrowth in check. And then I go a little bit neater and tidier when I'm going to be in a bathing suit. Like when I go on vacation at the end of this month and we're going to be by a pool, I'll get her in check. But that's for public safety. That's not for sexual enjoyment. But that was a big one.
But didn't you say that it's more sensation when you're waxed? So wouldn't sexual enjoyment be getting it waxed? Like, I'm so confused. I mean, I think she just wants the shock factor at this point. Like, I go there, guys. Like when she talked to Oprah on Oprah's stage and she told the tampon story. And basically the tampon story is that one time she had a tampon lodged in her vagina for 3 weeks and she had sex with her husband, Dave, and he didn't tell her. And he felt something but didn't tell her about it. And then she realized that, she realized after 3 weeks that like, oh my God, this tampon has been here. And apparently Oprah got up and walked away because she was disgusted by this story. And then at the end of the whole story, which was nothing, which was the point of the story was sometimes there's things that you've forgotten about that you need to like pay attention to, which is you could have told that analogy in 70,000 different ways that are not that. And Oprah said, why do you think you're so successful? Why do you have so many book sales, do you think? And she's like, because I tell stories like the tampon story, because I'm relatable. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a former alcoholic, I think she said, if I'm not mistaken. I'm real. I'm just like everybody else, So that was her whole shtick. So I think at this point, she's trying to set it up that like if she ever does a podcast interview again, which I'm sure she will with other podcasts, she can be like, I'm so crazy. I talked about my bush for 15 minutes last week. It's not about the actual content. It's about saying that you are this type of person. So no one is getting anything from this, like what she's saying at all. It's a personal anecdote about her own personal grooming that no one cares about. But she's able now to go and say, I just talk about the wackiest stuff and I'm authentic. I go there. Other women won't go there. I go there. And I think that's the difference, that it's like, oh, okay, so she's still better than us in all aspects.
For me, and maybe it seems silly, but it was a big deal for me to be like, I can embrace just sort of what my body is doing naturally, and not in a way that's like, oh, I don't care, right? Like, oh, I'm just letting it all go. But no, could I actually embrace that this is the way my body is supposed to look and function and be, and still think it's really sexy and beautiful and sexual and all the things. So yeah, that's my first thing I don't do anymore. I don't shave my chochi. Yeah, probably should stop calling it chochi.
Why? I can't call it a chochi. Yeah, so learn nothing that I needed to learn. This is actually, I'm trying to eat lunch, but it's sort of a hard story to eat lunch around. Not that it's gross. I don't know. It's like TMI, just TMI. Don't eat any of this. And also the point is that she's still doing what her boyfriend or the man in her life wants her to do. So it's not really that inspiring to moi personally, but
On to the next.
The
second thing that I don't do anymore really is wear a bra. You guys, if you listen to this show, you have probably heard me. I'm sure we have clips of like 1,000 times on this where I've said like, I'm not wearing a bra. I'm not wearing a bra. Oh my gosh. I hope you can't tell. I'm not wearing a bra.
Thanks, Canna. Welcome to the membership. And for that I say,
I'm probably going to misquote it.
I'm probably going to misquote it if I'm quoting someone else. If I didn't say Rachel Hollis at the end of it, I'm probably going to misquote it. She doesn't wear bras, guys. She's said it 1,000 times. She hopes she's not offending us because she doesn't wear bras. She also had a boob job, so, those stay in place pretty good. So you don't always need a bra if you have those boobies, right? I don't know. I have regular boobies, so I always wear a bra when I'm out for the most part, unless I'm wearing a shirt or something that doesn't require it. Then I'm fine. Then who cares? Again, who gives a fuck about any of this? But, she makes it a point that she's a hippie now and she doesn't wear bras. But like I said, she's got surgically inserted boobs. So I would assume that it's easier not to wear a bra. That's the whole point of it, I thought. I'm confused. Okay.
And I became conscious that I really, number one, I hate wearing a bra and I'm at home. So why should I be? And number two, it's almost like I have to tell you that it's happening for some sort of weird permission. And I was really conscious of how often I was saying, like, I'm not wearing a bra, I'm not wearing a bra, which who's even paying attention to that? But I realized I was interacting with, I think, my mom. I was like talking to her on FaceTime or something. And she's like, I'm not even wearing a bra right now. Like, I'm a mess. And I thought, oh, ding, ding, ding. That's where I get it from. Because growing up, I think it's like just a different time period or a different way of being raised. But growing up, I was definitely conscious or hearing a lot that was kind of like an unkempt woman, like someone who wasn't pulled together, someone who wasn't sort of putting their best foot forward, was someone who wasn't wearing a bra, which is, I wonder psychologically where that comes from. Don't you think that probably there is something to my mom being raised in an environment that was very conservative inside a very conservative, oppressive church, but she was coming of age in a time period where women were burning their bras, where hippies existed, where there was this whole other culture that was so evil and sinful and wrong, that I wonder, I gotta ask her about this. I wonder if there's a connection between a bra and like the right kind of woman that you're supposed to be. I for sure got that as part of what it was to be the right kind of girl. And so I did it.
For me, if I was to work out, I have to wear a sports bra. If I wore no bra, I would be in pain. And I think a lot of women that have probably, well, different sizes, like it actually helps a little bit. So, you know, and I wear like sporty bras more than I wear like full on, you know, cups and the wires, because that is uncomfortable. But like there's a fine line between like free is the best and wearing a bra that's comfortable, because it actually helps you too. So I don't know. I mean, this is her own opinion, obviously, about what she's choosing to do with her life, but I don't think it's that deep. It's another one that's like, Rachel, this ain't that deep. Your pubic hair is not that deep. Your bra wearing is not that deep. We're allowed to have our own choices now. I mean, it's, you know, it's not 1914 anymore. Like, we're able to choose what we want for ourselves. Not abortions, but, you know, that's a separate issue. But, you know, clothing wise, at least we have that, please. Like, let's keep that together for as long as possible. So no one really cares. And it's not really your choosing to wear a bra or not, to me, is like a big Oh no, there's Dave. The Dave bots are here. It's not a big representation of like what you stand for as a human being, personally. And thank you to Rebecca Romana. Rebecca Romana, I have to play your special clip. This is only for Rebecca Romana.
You are gonna marry Dave Hollis.
Rebecca says, Rachel bingo, mention boothing, mention church, mention childhood. All I need is a Jack mention and her gay besties mention, and I win. She did say her best friends, which I'm assuming is her friends. Her two friends who are married, who are gay. So she already sort of did that. She didn't call them by name, so maybe later in the podcast. And yes, you would win bingo. And that, winning Rachel Hollis bingo,
it actually was the most mature thing I have ever done.
There you go. Taking off her bra was actually the most mature thing she's ever done.
Are you Rachel?
No, I'm Rebecca. Thanks, Rebecca. I appreciate that. Okay, the Dave bots are gone for now. They haven't been here in a while. Welcome back, Dave bots. Here we go.
Ever do anything publicly without a bra on. And by publicly, I mean like doing an Instagram story from the chin up. It's so crazy. And as I started to explore this topic, I realized it's not just the bra. I feel really weird about cleavage. I feel really uncomfortable with cleavage, I'm realizing. My own cleavage, not yours. Yours is beautiful. Pull it out. Let's see. But for me, I feel really, I don't know.
Let's see. I'm not going to lie here. I'm sort of also kind of like not weird about it for myself. I just don't tend to wear outfits that show cleavage very much because I don't like to be perceived that way. I don't know. I just like to be perceived as like, oh, cute outfit. But if I've had shirts where they're lower and I always feel uncomfortable about it. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I just want to like, I'd rather have my back exposed and my front exposed, if that makes sense. There's really nothing, I don't think, like causing that thing. It's a preference. And again, I just don't think it's that deep necessarily. But, you know, she's going to be like, oh, my energy healer told me that this means that, you know, I'm a Sagittarius rising because I don't like showing cleavage.
Let's tune into this ankle.
Let's tune into this brassiere.
About it. And so I'm trying to, one, let go of this weird psychology that I have that you're supposed to wear a bra everywhere you go because God forbid your breasts should be unbound or free. And frankly, I started to embrace this because I hold all the tension in my body in my shoulders, my neck, and my traps. And I have chiropractic work done. I have energy healing done. I have massage therapy done. But if I'm in any kind of stressful situation, the pain in my shoulders, my neck, and my traps is horrible. And so frankly, I stopped wearing a bra as much because it hurts. Like it physically hurts to have one on. All of that to say, whenever we have these things that we're like, these are capital T truths, and this is the way a woman is supposed to be, a man is supposed to be, a good boy, a good girl, of whatever it is that you're dealing with in terms of your own psychology, I think it's worth examining why those exist. If you want to have something, if you want to be a certain kind of way, if you want to pursue something. But there's this ancient family lore around not doing that. It's not a justifiable good thing. It's just something our family doesn't do. Man, you got to unpack that. Because think of all these years I could have just been free, bush at full freedom, boobies at full freedom, and I just haven't. So I'm not trying to be wild out in these streets. I just am trying to be comfortable here in these sheets. You know what I'm saying? I'm not wearing a bra right now. I am wearing a tank top, though this does seem like very scandalous. Even this is not that big a deal. You guys can't see unless you're watching this on YouTube. But I do feel like, oh my gosh, this is such a low cut tank top. And I feel like, you know, someone's going to call the cops on me. So I did button this before we started. I'm here for not wearing a bra. It's going to take me a minute to let cleavage roam free. And I have to figure out probably first why cleavage is so scary to me. All right. And next in line.
Let us know. When you find out, let us know. I will be here for it. I mean, the first two, I'm like, not revolutionary, not part of a bigger picture that I really care about too much. The rest, the medical birth control thing, like that we're going to talk about, that's coming up. So the first two, I'm like, I just TMI. Don't need to know any of that information. Don't really care about it. The church one, I'm in agreement with her. The medical one or the birth control, I'm like, that's where I start to get into like questionable territory about like misinformation, sort of misleading people. Then the healthy one where she's like, I decided to get COVID because I can choose when and when not to have illnesses. That's where I'm like, hell no. So we're getting through the list.
Things I don't do anymore. Take birth control. This is a conversation about this moment. I'm going to talk about medicine. Obviously, you need to discuss anything that you're considering with your doctor. I am a chick on a podcast. I am not a medical authority. But if you listen to the show,
I am not a medical authority, but here is some medical advice from one chick to another chick.
That I have spent a lot of time over the last couple of years trying to balance my hormones. And that has been one of the most healing, life-giving things I've ever done. But it's been hard. I was pretty freaked out to try birth control again because I had been off of it for so long. So quick history. I had a very long relationship with my ex. He had a vasectomy. I'm not saying anything he hasn't said publicly, so I'm not like revealing truths. But he had a vasectomy a very long time ago, so I didn't need to be on birth control. And that was good because my system is so sensitive and so susceptible to anything that I put inside of it. And years ago when I was on birth control,
You're the most am I the only person who's sensitive to things in their body? It's like, what does that mean? I am so sensitive. Like you take an Advil and it cures your headache or like it gets rid of your headache. I eat gluten and it made me, feel bad one time. It's like, she always has to be the standout. Always, no matter what, in all situations. I'm the most sensitive. Well, she didn't say the most, but she's like, I'm highly sensitive. It's like, I think most people react to things when they put them in their bodies.
Was batshit crazy.
Okay, wait, I'm going back. I missed it.
Be on birth control. And that was good because my system is so sensitive.
She's talking about the pill specifically. She'll talk about other forms of birth control, but right now she's talking about birth control, the oral pill, I believe. I'm almost 100%. Thanks, Clarice.
So susceptible to anything that I put inside of it. And years ago when I was on birth control, I was batshit crazy. It made me insane. It made me bloated. It made me uncomfortable. It made me all of these things, but I genuinely was too young. I didn't have the knowledge to understand that there were other ways to manage conception of a child. So I just did what I thought you did, which was be on the birth control pill. And it was in retrospect, horrible. I hate that there were so many years where my body was put through the ringer and I just thought it was the way it was supposed to be. And the more women I talk to, yes, I do have friends that are on different forms of hormonal birth control, and they feel like it's great in their life. But far and away, women I talk to have really severe side effects. It makes them moody. It kills their sex drive. They don't produce as much lubrication during sex as they once did. It's harder for them to get turned on. They feel bloated. They feel heavier periods or no periods at all. Or it really messes with women's systems. And you also have this increase in your potential for things to happen to your body that are really scary. I think for the longest time, we would hear these stories about the side effects of birth control, and we'd be like, whatever, like the myth of toxic shock syndrome, where we're like, oh, that's, something that happens on the back of a...
Okay, I'm sort of confused at this part, and she's going to talk about the myth of toxic shock syndrome, which is like, okay, you have a whole story that's apparently true, according to her, that you had a tampon within yourself for 3 weeks and did not have toxic shock. So I guess that's why she thinks it's a myth. So it didn't happen to her, it's a myth. The part where she's saying that like, oh, birth control does all these bad things to your body. This is where I start to go, this is, leaning into misinformation. And this is something I've seen recently, and I want to explore it further on a more birth control pill, like only episode, not just about Rachel, but the wellness space right now has, and wellness and like sovereignty, which all sort of goes hand in hand these days, where it's like, I'm going to live off grid, demonizing oral birth control so much. There's this one study that's like very, very small, apparently, that, they did a little research from like I don't know. It's not like a full up blown study, but there was apparently this study, and all these wellness people like ran with it, where women were choosing the wrong mate because they were on birth control. And they're like, oh, birth control makes your sense of smell different. So when you're smelling for your mate, if you're on birth control, you're going to pick the wrong guy. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? But apparently this was like a study where it's like women who are on birth control like would smell different things. It was like not conclusive. It was not scientific, but a lot of accounts I've seen lately have been pushing birth control is bad, get off of birth control. And like Rachel Hollis is not the person I would want to go to hear this advice from, especially when she had a miscarriage not that long ago, where she said it was unplanned. She claimed she used condoms, but okay, like let's pretend that that's, her condom magically didn't work, and like she's somehow, above the use of condoms, I guess, or like they just don't work for her. I don't know how it fails unless you knew it failed immediately, but whatever. So let's say the condom broke. Okay, so wouldn't have been being on birth control helped in that situation and made you not go through that traumatic event if you were not, and she says she was not wanting a child at that time. And I get it. It's like being on hormonal birth control, you have to find a lot of them to find the one that works for you. Or there's other ones. There's the Nexplanon shot. There's the patch. There's the Nuva ring. There's so many ones that you can do that are not just like nothing or tracking your cycle. And tracking your cycles, yeah, it's important. It's helpful, but it's not a fail-safe method whatsoever. And also she's on the older end of the spectrum. If people are younger and perhaps like, I don't know. There's more of I don't know much about the age stuff. She says that you can have babies till you're 40. I know most people have their children when they're younger. I don't know. I just feel like this information is not clear. It's not concise. It's coming from one woman's perspective and you can't even trust it. And now she's going to start demonizing like, oh, it's going to do all these hurtful things to your body. I thought birth control helped certain things like the PCOS and certain things. Like, so now she's going to, I don't know. Let's just listen. Let me shut up for a second.
Tampon box. That's not something that happens in real life. But then you see a very real life story. I don't know if you caught it like 6 months ago or something. Hailey Bieber made a video on YouTube about going on birth control and not realizing that because of pre-existing medical conditions, she shouldn't have been going on hormonal birth control. And she had a horrible reaction. She had a mini stroke. She ended up having all of these heart problems. She had to have surgery on her heart. And she's like 24 years old or something, or 25 years.
Okay, I don't really know about the Hailey Bieber thing. I knew she had like a mini stroke, whatever. But I will say there's a caveat that I want to include here in this part of the story. She's like, Hailey Bieber had a thing and it's blamed on her birth control. Okay, Hailey Bieber and Justin Bieber are also very closely affiliated with the Amen clinics, the brain scan doctor people who Rachel loves. Rachel's hormone doctor is under the Amen clinic umbrella. So because Hailey is also under this umbrella of sort of not traditional psychiatry, and they might have a worldview that is closer matching to everyone just needs to have babies and live on a farm and be a hippie, perhaps. I'm not saying that's what Eamon's beliefs are, but it seems like the people who go see him are definitely more in the wellness space and more pseudoscience friendly. I'm not going to take her account of what happened as God's truth, that it was birth control caused. Let me see the medical records before I'm going to take that as like the God honest truth.
This like baby had these really extreme reactions to hormonal-based birth control. It's not, it's just like a alleged thing where they have to give us this as a potential. No, some people are really hurt by it and again, are not doing the research. They're not having conversations with their doctor. They don't understand how detrimental that can be. Your hormones, as if you are someone who bleeds, like if you are someone who bleeds, you get you have a cycle, you have a period once a month. If you are still in that space, your hormones are really ruling your life. They are. If I understand this now in a way that I didn't before.
Says you, Rachel. Says you. Who are you to say your hormones are ruling your life? Every person who has a period. Who the fuck are you to say that? You are nobody. You are a woman who just for the first time took their bra off. It's not true. It's just not true. It could be true, but it's not. And I'm not going to take the truth from Rachel Hollis because who is Rachel Hollis to say it? Your hormones are running your life. Okay.
If your hormones aren't in check, your life is not going to be what you want it to be. It's just not. The more women I talk.
And what does that mean? That's so subjective. My hormones are in check. Okay, now my hormones are not running my life. This is all trash.
Who have understood this, have started seed cycling, have started working with supplements and things that really help them to feel in balance. It's like night and day. When your hormones are out of whack, you are out of whack. I'm going to keep talking about hormones for the rest of my career, maybe, because I don't think...
Maybe, unless it's no longer in trend. And then I will switch to makeup tutorials. Seed cycling, there's no proof that works. Baby girl. Hey, it's God here. Rachel, seed cycling, there's no proof that works. Okay, and again, saying getting your hormones in check is a subjective expression. So there's no such like determining factor of what that means in reality. There's no like, a number of blood cells in your, there's none of that. So it's like, okay, does it feel in check? Does it not? And also you've told 1,000 stories in the last few months about how you've had panic attacks, you've had anemia, you haven't been able to do any physical challenges like you used to be able to do because of your hormones. Meanwhile, you've been working with this Amen Clinic doctor for a year plus and it's not working. So who's not in check? You. Don't blame your audience.
That exists today. There's not knowledge that exists today that can have as profound effect on your life as that. I was just talking to a new friend yesterday and we were talking about this, that the rate of suicide increases in women astronomically. Suicide and suicidal ideology increases astronomically in the 3 days before your period. But if you don't understand that those 3 days can bring on something like that and you start to have suicidal ideology, you begin to believe that there may be some truth to the things that you're thinking.
I think she means ideation. I think. I could be wrong, but I heard ideology. I'm like, isn't that something completely different? But what does that have to do? So don't take birth control? Like, because I think having a period 3 days before my period starts, I don't know where she's getting the statistic from. I'm going to look it up in a second. But it's like, so what am I supposed to do? What's the solution here, Rachel? Now I'm very concerned about my health because of this podcast, and I'm a woman who bleeds. Oh my God, what do I need to do? Okay, help me now. Go see Dr. Amen? No, thank you. That's $5,000 plus, and apparently it's not working for you, so why would I do it?
Much power. I've done already so many episodes about it. I will continue to do episodes. This is not going to be one of them, but just know hormone-based birth control is not the only option. There are so many options.
No shit.
And there are inherent risks. Like, let's be real. What I use for contraception is condoms. Tried different stuff. I did try for last year for like 2 weeks. I tried going on birth control and lost my ever-loving mind. Felt absolutely horrible. And then it took me like 6 weeks to get back on track. It's just, so crazy. But my chosen method of contraception is paying attention to when I am ovulating, taking extra precautions around that time, and using condoms. And I did accidentally get pregnant last year. I did a podcast at the beginning of the year about that. I did accidentally get pregnant using a condom. And I'm also the same person that accidentally got pregnant 15 years ago while on birth control. So I'm really fertile.
Or maybe you're taking it wrong. Or maybe you're not using it correctly. Again, like, she makes it seem like she's so special that like hormonal birth control doesn't work for her. And maybe that's true, but maybe you missed a day, and that they make it very clear. Like, if you miss a day or even you don't take it the same time at the same hour, it could not work for you. So don't put this out there that like condoms can make you pregnant. Birth control can make you pregnant. Like, you're not telling the full story. I just find it to be dangerous. And of course, she is the only person. Am I the only one who's gotten pregnant with using, these fairly reliable contraception twice? I mean, I don't know. It just seems like maybe there's a little bit of like user error involved, and she's not even aware of that. But it just seems like a dangerous thing. If you're that fertile, now your next plan is, okay, now I'm just going to track my cycle. It's like, oof, it's risky.
Risk that I'm willing to take to be only using condoms as my contraception, because I absolutely am not planning to have a baby. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was so excited. I felt like the universe was sending me this gift, and I didn't know how it happened. And later the baby died. I've tried to teach myself to not say I lost the baby, because I think it is a pretty, I don't like the vernacular there. I think it implies that the woman did something, like, oh, I lost my baby. Like, I put my baby down and then, left it somewhere. And really, while I was pregnant, my baby's heart stopped beating. I was devastated. And it has taken most of this year to get to a place where I feel whole again and I feel healed. And I did grapple for a while with, was that a sign from God that I'm supposed to have another baby? Like, am I supposed, like, that was a whole mind fuck, you guys, that took a lot of therapy and a lot of conversations to get past. My ultimate answer is that no, I don't know why that happened. It's one of those things in my life that I don't feel like I'm ever really going to know why all of that happened the way that it did. But I still feel very sure that my 4 children are a lot of children, and my energy is focused on being the best mom I can to them, which is still going to be the rest of my life of working to do that well. All of that to say, if I found out I was pregnant, like if I found out condoms didn't work and I found out I was pregnant tomorrow, I would also be thrilled, and that would be the course that my life is going to take. But to me, it is not worth having more confidence, it's not worth it to mess up my body on a daily basis. I mean, your body's a temple, right? This is a sacred space. This is what you've got to work with, and you want to take care of it to the best of your ability. I think that taking care of yourself to the best of your ability looks like limiting as much as you possibly can things that you're putting into your body that could potentially negatively affect it.
I just think this is like a wink, wink, nod, nod. Do not take hormonal birth control because that's not natural. It's better to take a supplement to help you. Because she said, oh, the seeds, her eating pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds and drinking, olive oil or whatever the fuck she did, made her fertile. So if that's what she thinks is how it all works, then taking something unnatural like a birth control pill is making you, hurt your body, which I have just not seen the evidence of that. Yes, people have side effects from birth control. Yes, but having side effects from birth control is still better in a lot of cases than having an unwanted pregnancy. Period, point blank. That's all there really is to say about it. And she is sort of leaning into telling people what to do. Don't put something in your body that's going to hurt you. I mean, we're sort of are past like the personal storytelling of her own life experience when she's saying like people are suicidal and they're taking this and that and it's bad for you. It's like, says who? And I looked up the study too. I saw someone also saw it. There's like I'm just looking quickly while I'm also listening and reading comments and stuff. So, I'll have to do more research, but it was like a study of like 200 women and 140 of them said, yeah, I feel more suicidal than I did 3 weeks ago. It's like, is that conclusive? Absolutely not. To say as a fact of life.
That we lived in a world that paid as much care and attention to women's health as it does to men's, because I guarantee if men were the ones who had to take birth control pills, which were invented for men a very long time ago, but they do not sell them because, what man would take that on? But if men were the ones who were in charge of taking birth control.
I don't know what she's talking about there. They were invented a long time ago. This also sounds like the pipeline to the secret cabal in, the basement of the pizza restaurant is holding the secrets of cancer research. Like, it's sort of a slippery slope to me. And I'm just hearing the beginnings of like conspiracy theory talk. Especially, it's so easy to get absorbed in this in the wellness space because there's so much distrust of big pharma, which I'm not saying big pharmaceutical companies are like great and amazing, but to think that they're all in cahoots together to kill you, I don't know. I have a hard time finding truth in that as clear cut as these people make it seem. And then they're fine with supplements made, who knows where by who knows who with who knows what ingredients in it. They're fine with those. Those are totally safe. It's like, come on, give me a break.
I promise you that they would have less side effects. I promise you that there would be a lot more effort and intention put into birth control to make sure that it was safer for the person taking it. But we know that they don't put as much intention into women's health as they do to men's. And I hope that that changes and that sometime in the future, there are solutions that are better and safer for women, not just physically, but also emotionally and spiritually. But I don't think we're there. And since we're not there, I am choosing to not use that form of hormone in my body.
Good for you. And you're also rich. So if you have a child, you can afford to have a child. Now help everyone else that's not there. Help everyone that's not in your mansion community have options. We love it. Love it. It's just like a privileged woman's take on, I don't need to do anything that I can eat healthy foods. Like, okay, great. Good for you. Clap, clap, clap. Wonderful. That's not why people who aren't making that much money aren't eating healthier. It's because everything costs money, and that's always a factor in all these conversations. But if you're rich, you don't think about that. You're like, why don't people just eat healthier? Why don't people just like have the rhythm method? And if they have a baby, just like have the baby. Like, who cares? It's like, oh my God. The ignorance is clear. And I think she's very susceptible to other people's beliefs. So even if she's not really interested in all these topics, like if she's being talked to by like Kimberly, the energy healer who has ties to Teal Swan, like that, she might just be absorbing this type of information, much more readily than someone else.
You talk to your doctor about what is best for you.
Okay, good. Thank you.
The next thing that I no longer do is read romance novels. I no longer read romance novels.
And this is the every single podcast dig at Dave. And I gotta say, like, I'm no Dave fan, obviously, but I sort of feel for him that she throws Dave under the bus and their entire relationship, who again is like the father of her children and a co-parent for her kids for life. She is going to make it seem like he's the biggest asshole that's ever walked the earth. And I just don't find it to be true.
Being a dick.
I'm sure he is, but I don't know. She makes it seem worse, I think, than it ever was, because she really said she had an exceptional marriage with this man, and now all of a sudden everything that went wrong is his fault. It's like very convenient.
This maybe doesn't track with you at all if you're new to my community. But for years and years and years, I loved a romance novel. I talked about it all the time. I read in every genre. Was it historical? Yes. Was it sci-fi? Sure. Was it a current day working woman meets a grouchy billionaire? Yeah. Yeah. I'm here for that. I have read all of them. Is there a vampire and a witch involved? Let's go. Is it a teenage love story? Perhaps. Are we in the Hunger Games and like we're fighting for our lives, but also in a love triangle? Like if there was a love story in a book, sign me up. I am here. Old, new, doesn't matter. I want every part of it. And I read thousands. I'm not exaggerating that number. It was my preferred form of entertainment. Some people watch the Kardashians. I read historical romance novels, have spoken about it very publicly. I've written 3 novels that had love stories, very big part of my life for about a decade. And when I got divorced, I stopped reading them and for obvious reasons. Like I was going through this horrible breakup and I couldn't even fathom the idea of romance, let alone reading about someone else's love story. What's that song? Like Love Stinks? Like that was me. Remember in The Wedding Singer, everyone at table 8? That was me. I was just like, love stinks. I don't want any part of this. So I wouldn't read any. And then over time, even like as that pain and that process dissipated, I didn't have a desire to read them anymore. And I started to wonder about that in the last 6 months because I thought, this is crazy. Like this was such a massive part of my life. If I was by a pool on vacation or if it was my holiday break and the kids were in bed, I'd like pick up a novel, and I don't do that.
We get it. We get it. Get to the fucking point.
At all anymore. And I started trying to unpack and figure it out. I was in Brooklyn. I was having drinks with one of my friends and she had just gone through a breakup, and she was saying how she was in her relationship. She had a long-term relationship. And when she was inside of it, she had written out the idea. She's a writer. So she had written out the idea for this like character based on her life, but not her life, because the person was single and they were like, here's how they were looking for love. And it was interesting and whatever. And she's like, should have realized that was a red flag. And I was like, exactly. In retrospect, I read romance novels nonstop because I did not have romance in my life. I liked reading about meat.
She's such a bitch. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I gotta say it. She's such a bitch. That's so mean. It's so mean. Think what you want. Like, I mean, pretend Dave doesn't exist. You were with this guy for 20 years. You had no romance at all. Isn't that something, again, like a little bit of your responsibility? Like, you adopted a child with this man. You had 3 other children with this man. He's that bad. And you had a marriage conference propping your relationship up with this man. He was the CEO of your company. This awareness came so late. I don't know. Thanks, Mai. Mai says, a palate cleanser or healing, please? The birth control talk was infuriating. Oh, buckle up, baby, because it's about to get worse. On number 6, sixth and final. This is a palate cleanser, but I'll give you an additional palate cleanser.
Clear, clear, clear.
Clear, clear, clear. We have cleared the birth control conversation out of our minds, out of our spirits. Our spirit guides are taking them up to the heavens and are deleting them from our consciousness. We're saying,
Hello, brother. Can I get by?
Can I get by without hearing more about Rachel Hollis's beliefs on birth control? And again, shout out to Helen.
Shout out to Helen.
Thank you, Mai. And then Rebecca Romana. Thank you as well. Rebecca says, romance does not equal romance novel. Rachel would be the person who read Hunger Games, a book about child murder and the horror of capitalism and fascism, and think, yes, romance. Girl, just read fanfics. Let's tune into that ankle.
Let's tune into this ankle.
Rebecca, that's irrelevant, okay? This is what she had to say about the Hunger Games.
This mountain is covered with bears.
It was covered with bears, therefore it's a bear story. This one also is for Rebecca. This is what Rebecca will say at her wedding with Dave Hollis.
Your girl is a bougie bitch.
Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, we're going to get through this one. This is sort of like, Dave sucks. I hated him. I never loved him. He's not funny. He's not romantic. He's a total dickhead. Never liked him. Okay, that's this part. And then we're going to get into the vaccines aren't needed conversation. So get ready.
And magic and people who are like intentional and this swoony love story, because I didn't have that. I had a partnership. I had a co-parent. I had a very dear friend. I had a sex life. I had all of these things, but I did not have romance. In the books, in the fantasy, I guess, the woman is pursued. She's pursued by someone. And maybe she pursues them back, but kind of the crux of this idea is that they're falling in love and they're interested in each other and they do things. And I think this happens a lot in long-term relationships where the pursuit stops. And I really think that I retreated into reading about what I did not have. And I would try and sort of recreate these moments or like find these moments or let's have date night or whatever. But it's not the same when you're like figuring it out and setting it up and inviting the person and doing like, if you're solo in that effort, it doesn't feel the same as it does in a book, obviously. And it's super easy to hear this and be like, well, life isn't a book. You're right, but life can be magical. And I know what it's like to be in a relationship now with someone that romance is a priority. That's the thing. Like everybody.
Rachel, it wasn't about Dave. It was probably more likely that you got married to him at 21 years old. The first guy you ever had been with, you decided this is the one and I'm going to make it work no matter what. And this is the second guy you're with and you've only been with him a year and a half. Yeah, it's a lot easier a year and a half in than it is 13 years in with 4 children. Like that is just the truth of the matter, whether it's Dave or some other guy. I don't think it's as much as like a personal attack on her as she thinks it is. I think it's her life circumstances that she chose that are affecting that. Yes, of course, in the beginning of any new relationship, there's more romance, period. Most of the time, I would imagine that's the case for a lot of people. Not in every case, but she said she had like gotten past that by going on these Thursday night date nights and like In every book she's ever written, like she writes about Dave in the sense of like, oh, he was a jerk when we first met, but he is like the most loving, kind man ever now because we've worked on it so much. Again, a misrepresentation, I believe.
It's to be who they are. And romance is a lower priority for some people than others. It doesn't make their choices wrong, but it does mean if you have one partner who's reading nonstop about what it would be like to be in a relationship where romance is in the air and we're having adventures and we're doing these things, and the other person's like, I'm fine with how it is, there's going to be a misalignment there. And
Dave also took her, and I'm saying he took her because he was working and she was starting her business or she was staying at home at that time, to Argentina. They went to Europe when they were fairly young. So it's like, there was adventure, so it sounds like, at least when she would talk about and post about these things, that he was traveling all the time and he would take her a lot of times on these like work trips, and she got to go and whatever. They went to Hawaii. Like none of that is romantic. None of it. None at all. Okay. Just checking. Okay.
Sorts of misalignments that lead to a breakup, but it never occurred to me that I was looking for something that I didn't have, that I was looking for something in the pages of those books that I didn't have. And I share that one because I'm going to bet that there are those of you who are pursuing and looking for things out in the world. You're like trying to do things externally that you're not getting inside the actual relationship that you're inside of. This can lead to really dangerous things too, right? This can lead to really hurting someone that you're with because maybe you seek a level of intimacy with someone that is not your partner, and that can be deeply hurtful. Or maybe this is what leads to affairs, or maybe this is what leads to fantasy or sort of a disconnection from who you're with. But I do think that having those books, I didn't understand it at the time, but it was a crutch. It was like sort of a numbing mechanism. Like I could go to this place and read these other people's stories and have something fulfilled in me that I didn't have in my own relationship, but because I always had a book to go back to, I wasn't conscious of why I kept going back to the book. So it's kind of a weird one. And
maybe you just liked it at that time and now you don't like it. Like also, it could just also not be that deep.
What that might be in your life. But for me, my girl said, when we were having drinks, like, she's like, that should have been a red flag. Like how excited I was about this story about this woman who was with a completely different kind of man than my partner should have been a signal to me that there was something that wasn't right.
I don't agree with that. I think people have fantasies about things all the time. And as long as you're not, disrespecting your partner to act on it or take it to a place that's disrespectful to your partner, I think they're totally fine. Personally, I know she's got a problem with like porn and stuff, but I don't. So I think that's a natural thing that when you repress things like that, that's when I think you run into trouble personally. This is Rachel.
This situation is a red flag.
This situation is a red flag. This whole podcast is a red flag. And also,
this person is not okay.
This person, aka Rachel Hollis, is not okay.
I don't do anymore is go to church.
Okay, this part, I'm going to let it ride because I literally, I never went to church much. I went to Catholic church when I was like child, but I think it's good that she's opening up about this. This is a big part of her brand. Her first book, not her first book, her first self-help book was published under a Christian banner. So it's important. Oh, thank you, LCV. Thank you. Thank you so much. She posted, under the banner of a Christianity and like was inspiring Christian women and these MLMs very much. So I think it's important that she comes out and says like, I don't go to church. This is why. And she sort of does that here. So I will give her 100% props. And for LCV Maddox, I'm going to say, what is this one? This is a new one. Oh yeah. Wait, this is a new one.
I'm going to send you so much love and so much light and so much good energy today because I feel like you need it.
You need it, LCB. You need it. Also, Dave says, this is gross. This is weird. This is what Dave says.
Your kids are gorgeous and they've gotten old.
Your kids are gorgeous and they've gotten old. And just to make sure, this next one.
Is this safe for the internet?
Yes, it is. Thanks, Dave, for asking. And thank you to LCV Maddox for that super chat.
I make that look, if you're watching this on YouTube, I make like oh, wow, she's doing it. I'm going to guess most of you don't care about that, but I also am positive that many of you do. Even saying this right now, my chest is like, there's a feeling in my chest and my stomach about speaking this truth because I grew up in the church. Because of Girl Wash Your Face, I have a lot of audience members and community members that feel very deeply about church. And I am not speaking to your experience or your truth. I am just sharing my own. And I'm sharing my own not to change the way you feel about what you're doing, but because my instinct is there are members of this listening audience who have also found themselves in a similar place. And we're not supposed to talk about this. And it's sort of like just let everyone sort of believe what they believe about you, and then you're going to be okay. But I'm not really interested in that. I want a community of people who's open to every kind of person, because that's how I try and be. And I believe that we attract what we are. And yeah, I guess if you believe that I go to church every Sunday, I don't know why you would, because I feel like I don't like fit into that description anymore. But if that is your perception, I wanted to talk to this. If you were not raised in a religious community, it might even seem weird to you that this would be something worth talking about publicly. But the way I was raised, it is a really big deal. And I will say I spoke about this in Girl Wash Your Face, but really the beginning of the end for me was years ago when two of my best girlfriends, Beans and Sammy, which if you have ever been to Rise Conference or if you've hung out.
The Rachel Hollis bingo that Rebecca called out, the two best friends, the couple, they've been named. So there you go, bingo.
Long enough, you probably know those girls because they're always part of my work and my life and my storytelling. But these two women that I went to church with fell in love with each other. And they were both on the pastoral staff at church. And that did not go over well. We thought that we were inside a church that was inclusive and accepting. And I guess it was, unless you were gay, in which case suddenly everything shifted. And that whole experience was horrible to watch from the outside. And I can't fully imagine what it felt like to Sammy and Beans on the inside. But I just had so much anger in that process. I had obviously seen different churches do really crappy things in the name of God over and over and over, which is insane because the foundation of the Christian faith is love thy neighbor as thyself. But I have seen the church do so many things. I mean, we have all seen, unless you have been living under a rock for the past ever, we have all seen different pieces and parts of the church do things, cover things up. I mean, like the Spanish Inquisition, the witch trials, we could go all the way back and look at times.
Okay, yeah, but that happened before 2019 when you left the church. You didn't have a problem with it then? I'm just saying, we're going like way back. Well, I don't know. It's like, see, like no one should go because look at the Spanish Inquisition. It's like, you probably knew about that before and you still went anyways.
That the church body has really hurt its fellow humans. And the reason that happens is because no matter how much intentionality that organization starts with, it is still run by humans. Humans are flawed. We are imperfect. But that's not really the foundation of most churches. Most churches are founded on the idea that like God is in us. And so the decisions and the actions and the things that we're doing are God. And that can be really dangerous. And if you have a church family that you love and amazing, embrace that. Like, that is such a freaking gift. But I think that it would be naive to believe that every single church body is safe and right and good. Always, 100%.
Yeah, no shit. Again, it's like, okay, this is stuff that people have come to for years, and I'm glad that she's here. And I obviously align with her very much on like, any organization that's meant to collect money and tell you what to do is probably going to become corrupt at some point. Not saying every religious institution, but there's always potential for that. Of course, it is naive to think every church, any religious organization is pure and good, especially when there's evidence produced. But it's just sort of rich. Like, okay, once you've made your money as a Christian blogger, or at least people you allowed to call you a Christian influencer, a Christian writer, a Christian, whatever. Once that train has sailed and you've made your money on that, now you're okay with calling it out, what people have said for a long, long time. Now, less risk because you're no longer making money from those people. Maybe. But also, I agree with what she's saying, so I don't have too much to say about it, which shows something on me that I'm more willing to let her express herself when it's something I align with. So keep that in mind, because I'm not saying that it's, fair of me to do that, but I mean, I agree. So what more can I say?
Of the time. So when I walked with my friends through this process and saw them ostracized and treated so badly by the church, I tried. We had been there for a long time and we loved our church. Like, it was amazing until we saw sort of behind the curtain, and I couldn't sit there anymore. I would hear the head pastor speak, and he's such a talented speaker. I would sit in the congregation and hear him speak, and I was like, this is all BS. Like, I know what you're doing, and it doesn't align with the loving God that I know. And I've said publicly that my oldest son is gay, but I knew even then, I knew when he was little, like, I just have always known. And I just kept
I wondered about that part, if people were going to be upset about that, because I know that's like what people have said before things were more fluid and like there was more rules about coming out on your own time and not outing people. But I wonder how people think that are in the community about, like, she's like, I've always known he was gay. It's like, oh, that's a little presumptuous, I think, because, there's many different ways to present yourself these days. I mean, there has been for years, but it's just more accepted socially. Even though a lot of people don't accept it, I think overall it's much more accepted at large. So let me know what you think, if you have any thoughts on her saying, like, I've always known he was gay.
If we stayed in this church and Jackson was a teenager and we're still at this church and he's understanding what happened to his aunties, here's a story about what happened to his aunties and how the church, and he's like, what are you guys doing? Like, you knowingly stayed in an environment where they do not love and accept people unless they're straight? And I just couldn't imagine, like, I couldn't sit with the hypocrisy of that. So we stopped going to that church. We started going to another one. We did like church hopping. We tried to find different things. After that, we moved out of Los Angeles to Austin. We started going to a church here. But to be honest, I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't sit inside that space. I just found so much, hypocrisy is the word I use. I just found so much wrong with it. I don't understand this church building and like a pastor making that much money and driving that car, and there are people sleeping on the streets of this city tonight. Like, there's just, I know this, like, I'm running the risk of like pissing off so many people. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about all churches. I'm talking about my experience. So I really started to explore, how do I have a relationship, a stronger, better relationship with my Creator, with my God, that doesn't require.
Yeah. As long as the timeline, or in regards to the timeline, I'm not sure. She said that before, that it, like, she sat in the, in the church after the other two had left, her friends, and she just didn't like it anymore. But I don't know what the timeline was. One time, one day, a week, a month, a year, a couple years. I don't know. She doesn't specify, but she left eventually, and they seem to be friends still. So I guess they're not offended.
The step of church that doesn't require this sort of dogmatic, show up here on Sunday at 10 a.m., do these things, say these things. What did that look like? Oh, I struggled with it so hard, you guys, because I was raised my whole life going to church every Sunday, every Wednesday, maybe a Bible study. And I thought, like, I legitimately, no BS, thought, am I like damning my children to a life without the routine and the ritual of church? But then I would balance that with, am I also hurting them if I expose them to these things that no longer align with how big I understand God to be? That was a whole freaking thing. And it took a lot of unpacking and was definitely a point of tension in my relationship in the past, because I can't do this. I can't pretend in this way anymore.
That's sort of surprising, because like sounds like she was starting to doubt the church before her and Dave broke up, presumably because, in my relationship in the past, the only relationship she's been in is with Dave. But she was, even as of late, she was quoting scripture from the Bible in Charleston, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It was definitely on Rach Talk Live. She was on stage doing a whole thing with like soft music in the background, saying that, you got to walk through the valley of death or whatever. And so I think she uses it, and she says she prays. She still says she prays. And I guess the difference is she's saying she doesn't go to a traditional church, and that she just, has a different relationship. So I guess I could understand, like, you could still quote scripture, I guess, on your own. But it sounds like she might have been having these thoughts before she broke up with Dave, which was in, the spring of 2020. She was still writing in her books, or at least the first two were pretty much Christian, focused, talking about going to church. She would post her kids' outfits going to church in the beginning of her blog. And she never publicly really came out and said, I'm against this, until recently, I believe, about leaving the church and like not believing in church anymore. And again, I have nothing wrong with that. I'm on the same page, but it's interesting that she would publicly appeal to that group of people who think that she's Christian, and she would lean into that, but then privately be fighting with Dave about how much he wanted the kids in church, I'm assuming, and she didn't. Interesting.
And I think the beauty of going through that process is my faith has never been stronger. I would describe myself as very spiritual. I have a stronger faith, a more beautiful spirituality.
I was driving in the car, and she like pauses there, I would describe myself as, I'm like, spiritual. We said at the same time then too. I'm like, of course.
I am more regularly in prayer. I am more regularly in meditation. I feel more connected to a loving God than I ever have before. But the freedom of removing church from the mix is that I've been able to unpack a lot of things that I was taught that I don't think align with what is true. There are a lot of parts of the Bible and the Christian faith, and maybe the particular religion that you practice, but there are a lot of parts of that are deeply patriarchal, obviously. That make women less than, that make women smaller and more insignificant. And I think a huge part of a very hurtful ideology I grew up with was that the man always knew best. The man, daddy knew best. And then I went from daddy's house to my husband's house, and he knew best. And I just so many things. I like denied my intuition. I disconnected from self. I disconnected from this relationship because there was always a conduit that sort of knew better. And
thank you. Truly unruly. Truly unruly chose a pear character, exaggeratedly stretching his arm forward to offer a cup of coffee. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. This is what I have to say to you, truly unruly.
I'm too tall to run.
I am too tall to run. I'm 5'5", much too tall.
Whatever.
True.
This beautiful Latina woman.
Is that you, truly unruly? Are you a beautiful Latina woman?
I am not someone who fails.
Me neither. Neither is truly unruly. Thank you. I appreciate it.
by removing that piece, my whole world opened up. And it's very controversial in the world that I come from to say this. Like I said, I believe in your right to practice whatever you love to practice in whatever way feels good to you. But in case you are someone who no longer practices in that way, and maybe you feel alone in that, you're not alone. So one of the things I no longer do is go to church. And
there's like so many podcasts and so many groups out there that are like, you know, deconstructing from Christianity. Rachel Hollis is not the first one. But, you know, okay, I'm going to let it slide because, again, you know, biasly, I agree with what she's saying. So I will let her off the hook more than I would if she's talking about what she's about to talk about right now. Buckle up, everybody.
Doesn't mean that I wouldn't again. I would be lying if I say that there aren't parts of it that I miss. I miss like Christmas time at church, and I miss some of those rituals and those things that feel like just a part. There's just a comfort in them. And I'm positive that I'll be in church services in the future just because that's how life goes. You go with someone to a service, or it's a wedding, or it's a funeral, or, you know, christening or something like that. But it is, I guess what I'm saying is I no longer seek out church as my connection to the divine. I don't need a conduit anymore. I understand that greater is he who is in me than he who is in the world. Okay, the last thing that
all right, here it is, the grand finale.
Don't do anymore, which is, I mean, possibly more controversial than not going to church, is I don't get sick. I don't get sick anymore. I made this decision.
Let's unpack. Let's unpack that sentence. I don't get sick anymore. I made this decision, ... What the fuck?
Wait, what?
Girlie, that's not how it works. God again. Hey, God, it's me, God. Your bestie. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. Work it. Don't get sick. I don't know. That's not how getting sick works, Rachel. Can you further explain how getting sick works, though? Thanks.
2.5 or 3 years ago, maybe 2. I don't remember. Sometime in the past few years, I made this decision that our minds are the most powerful thing in the whole of our being. They're so powerful. Your mind is so powerful. The reason I know your mind is so powerful is because your mind can make you believe things that are not actually happening. You can have a physical response to a thought that has not happened. It's why you can have an anxiety attack just imagining something that might occur, right? You can imagine what would happen if your mother-in-law got upset with you about something random, and you can feel yourself begin to have an anxiety attack based on an imaginary thing. In the same way that you could imagine something that's sexy that turns you on, you could start to think about like when your partner does that thing that they do in bed, and you could literally make your body can begin to get turned on based on a thought. Your mind is...
So therefore, I have discovered that fantasy can affect me physically. Therefore, I decided I no longer will be sick. Yeah, and anemia and hormonal imbalance, those are things you can't change. And miscarriages, can't change that either. That happened to her, not for her, but everything else happens for her, not to her. It's at her own discretion, except when it's not. It makes perfect sense, guys. It's called the law of the Hollis. However she wants to spin it is the way that it shall be. Hollis 412. Last time it was Hollis 316. Now we're talking about Hollis 412, okay?
Incredibly powerful when it comes to what your body is doing. There's a great documentary on this called Heal. It's older, but it's worth a look if you haven't ever seen it before. It explores our body and the healing process. There's a ton with this and quantum physics. You can look at the work of Joe Dispenza.
Oh, God. Okay, bingo cards. Joe Dispenza's been announced.
I want to throw up. Hold on.
Joe Dispenza's got all the fucking, truth of the world. Come on.
This is just stupid.
Thank you, Dave. I think Dave Ramsey would agree. This is just stupid. This has gone full-blown conspiracy theory territory. I believe I don't get sick because my mind is so powerful. Yeah, what's the point of the seed cycling? What's the point of the doctor? What's the point? If you already know that your brain is so powerful, what's the point of doing any of this other additional crap? I don't know if she's lying or if she doesn't see the error of her ways. I can never tell. I never know. I don't know if she just purposely doesn't give a shit and it's I'm just going to say whatever I think and say it out loud and then never go back and process wait, did those two thoughts, can those exist in the same timeline? Or if she just goes, I don't care at all, I'm gonna say what I think, what I think will get me to sell more books, or I don't know, I'm never sure. And it gets worse.
Real thing that our minds are very powerful. And so in learning about these things and studying these things, I thought, okay, well, if my mind is that powerful, what are thoughts I allow myself to think that are no longer serving me? What are thoughts I allow myself to think that are no longer serving me? Because if I can begin to identify those thoughts, even if I can't control them every time, simply becoming conscious of where they take up space in my mind can help me to sort of shrink the amount of times that they're coming into play. And I started to pay attention to thoughts I had surrounding stress, surrounding sleep, surrounding feeling rested, and getting sick. I have, in the past, gotten sick in kind of the same patterns over and over and over again. Let me know if this is something you guys experience, but I essentially would get sick on the tail end of every big project that I did. So I'd have a big launch, let's say a book was coming out, I'm going on a book tour, or I'm going on a speaking tour like I'm on right now, and that would happen. And then as soon as I had wrapped up all the things I needed to do, I would get sick. I would get
I told you this was a banger. Number 6. Number 6. I don't believe that sickness is real. Number 6. If you're sick, have you tried just not being sick before? The Rachel Hollis Guide to Wealth, Health, and Happiness. Just believe. It worked for me.
Really sick. It was my immune system was just stay, crash. And I had all of these beliefs around that was sort of the way it would be, that I would just push myself as hard as I could and then I'd get sick. When I was learning all of these things about how powerful our minds are, I thought, well, hell's bells. Let's just see if I can change this narrative.
Well, golly.
So I started with an affirmation that was I am strong, I'm healthy, I'm full of vitality, I have energy. I would come up with all of these things that I wanted to be, that would be my version of what wellness looked like. And then one day I was I'm just going to try this. And I just started saying, I don't get sick. When people would be you got to get a flu shot. I'm oh, no, it's okay. I don't get sick. When COVID.
Okay, there you go. That's the first. Now she's going to talk about COVID in a second. But she's Do you want a flu shot? Oh no, the Rachel Hollis, don't need a flu shot. The antibodies that are within that vial is vile. My own thoughts cure me, bitch. The audacity.
You're not freaking fine.
You're not freaking fine, Rachel. Something's going on here.
Are you Rachel?
Are you going insane? Yes. This is nothing unique either. This is like what, I was not fully engulfed yet when I was doing, my healing stuff and like was going to the chiropractor, like she had mentioned earlier. I didn't say anything, but I was also seeing a spiritual chiropractor. Yes. I was meditating a lot and going to group yoga things, and, I had a life coach. So I was down this path, and they really start, and I say they, but in the group that I was in, and it's, it wasn't a tight group. It was like a bunch of people that would kind of overlap in different areas of these modalities, right? Like the Reiki, a lot of people did the Reiki and the yoga, and then maybe one person wouldn't do the meditation. Anyways, but I would see the same people a lot, and they start to talk about like, once you're in and you're there for a while, they start talking about, oh, antibiotics are bad for you. Oh, vaccines are bad for you. Oh, wearing a mask? Oh no, that's giving up your sovereignty. Oh, birth control? Oh yeah, that's a scam. That's all a scam. Like what? Like but they don't tell you that day one. Day one, they're like, oh, we're so glad you're here. But then on day 500, now you're being told like, oh no, like, just tell the guy at Walgreens you don't need a vaccine because your brain is smarter. It's like, oh my God. So she's not unique in this either. She's being indoctrinated. She doesn't probably even realize it. But let's go back just a second, talk about the flu vaccine, and then she's going to talk about COVID.
This looked like. And then one day I was like, I'm just going to try this. And I just started saying, I don't get sick. When people would be like, oh, you got to get a flu shot. I'm like, oh, no, it's okay. I don't get sick. When COVID happened, I said it over and over and over again. I was like, I don't get sick. I'm energetically protected. Angels are keeping me safe. My immune system is strong. I have the most amazing immune system ever. I just don't get sick. Y'all, none of those things, I have like no facts to base anything I just said. My immune system is not historically so strong. Historically, I had gotten sick all the time. But I just started to affirm that for myself. I'd feel my body start to feel weak or get a tickle in my throat. And I'd just be like, nope, I don't get sick. I don't get sick. I don't get sick.
I'll sound about that too. I don't get sick. I don't get sick. Okay. If you got sick, like, yeah, something's wrong with you. Okay. I'm sorry. She doesn't get sick, guys. Yeah. I don't know what to say. Other than that, this is like the typical way that these privileged people who live on Mount Olympus start to think about the world because they are so up their own ass and have people who worship them. It's really the people who worship them that are making it worse. Like they say a thought and people go, and they can't stop. It's like human nature. I'm going to give her like a little bit of like, okay, maybe she can't help it to a degree where it's like, if everything you say, people applaud you for it. You're going to think everything you say is special and perfect and uniquely, because you're so smart. So when you have a bad thought and you don't listen to criticism because it's negative, this is the type of like spiral you can go down, especially because she's spiraling down in her career. She's going to now latch on to other things to believe in, to assert control back. And I think that's where we're at with this, watching this from the big picture perspective.
I know this sounds stupid, but I swear to you, this works. This works. Now, I also take care of my body. I drink water, like so much freaking water. I get sleep. I eat whole foods as much as possible. I am making really smart choices nutritionally. I have supplements. I am living for optimum health, which definitely supports this vision. But the affirmation of this being my truth, I think is the key. It is. Going on tour right now, crew members dropping like flies. I mean, God love, they're all friends or family. So I'm teasing, but they.
You already knew that because it's been evident. They're all friends and family because she doesn't have a team anymore because she can't afford it perhaps, or won't spend the money to have a professionally run show, or she didn't sell enough tickets that she feels like, fuck it, we'll just have a blank stage with a tablecloth, which is what she's done so far for these Rach Talk events. But this is like, this is just, it's classist behavior. Like, oh, I can eat clean foods and drink water and sleep, so therefore I'm going to be healthy. And if you don't do those things, which a lot of people can't do for various economic reasons, then you're going to get sick, and that's your fault.
Are all getting sick because they're catching flus, they're catching colds. Part of it is the stress,
including her friends and family. That's what I meant to say there too. She's like, my friends and family are all idiots because they don't believe like I do that I don't get sick. They're dropping like flies, all my friends. It's like, okay, maybe you're just delusional. And if like you were like, it's like those people who, are they're turning silver from drinking like that solution that's supposed to cure or something, and they're like, no, I'm healthy. And their whole bodies are turning like a different color and they like deny it. It's just denial. So she could be sick at any given time, but because she has this belief, she's going to delude herself. And is that any better? Maybe it feels better if you delude yourself and go, I'm not sick, and then be like coughing up blood. Like, I'm not sick. I mean, maybe that helps you. I don't know. No, it doesn't. I'm joking. But like, I don't think it's just like this is the cure-all. It's just like, oh, this is a way to deny the truth.
Travel, not eating well, not sleeping enough, having fun, like going out for drinks as a crew, whatever. So part of it is I don't do those things. Like, I love it. Like, hey, y'all go have fun. But I don't do that.
Okay. Also, in her VIP, I don't know if it's every venue or just some, but she's taking photos with people in the VIP as part of her package for Rach Talk Live. You have to prove that you have a negative COVID test 48 hours before the event, even if you're vaccinated. Now, if it's just friends and family and she's the one like running the show here, why would that be required? And I'll bring that up in a second. I'll show you where that says that, so you're not just like taking my word for it.
I know if I'm going to put myself into a stressful situation, if you are going to put yourself into a stressful situation, you have to double down on the self-care. You have to double down on the things that are making you vital and healthy and strong so that you don't get sick. And when everyone's feeling bad, and one of the members of my team was like, hey, how are you? Like, everyone's sort of struggling. I'm like, oh, I'm great. I don't get sick. And she was like, ha, ha, ha.
Can you imagine if that was like your boss? Like, hey, are you okay? Yeah, I don't get sick. I'm like, shut up. Who do you think you are? Okay, here it is. This is from the Rach Talk Live website. Now, this is not her website. This is VIP Nation, where you can purchase tickets. On the gold photo op, VIP package, you get a seat in the first 10 rows, whatever. You get a VIP thing. Here it goes. For the safety of everyone, VIPs who are participating in the photo op with Rach will be required to provide a negative COVID test taken within 48 hours of the event, regardless of vaccination status. So if your brain is controlling your sickness and your ability to get flus and COVID, why do you require a negative test? That seems like at odds with trusting in the universe. Am I right or am I right? I'm right. Thank you. Okay. Back to Rach.
I'm like, no, for real. So I've gotten sick one time in the last 3 years, and I swear to you that I made a conscious decision to allow it. If you are not a hippie right now, you are rolling your eyes at me, sister, and that is okay. But I made a conscious decision at the beginning of this year. Noah, my daughter, who's 5, she was 4 at the time, got COVID. Sweet, poor baby. She got it from preschool. She's 4. She wants mama. She doesn't feel good. Everybody else had it. My boyfriend, look, you want to know how I don't get sick? I spent an entire week with my boyfriend. He had COVID. We didn't know. We were making out like it was a part-time job. Kids were with their dad, and I was like, hey, boo, let's do all the things. I mean, he was
Ew.
coughing. I just thought he had a flu. Like he was coughing in my face sometimes in the night. And I was like, oh, poor baby, whatever. Taking care of him. Turns out he had COVID. I did not get it. Everybody in my family got it. Didn't get it. Noah got it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be holding this baby for the next like 10 days. Let's just go ahead and get this over with. Let's go ahead and get those antibodies in here. Like,
Why would you need antibodies? Oh, I didn't read it. Dang it. I think that was in the other chat too. Dang. I missed it. Who was that? Who sent that in? Sorry. Help me out, guys.
let's just go. So I did get it at the beginning of the year. And
Whoever that was from, thank you very much for that super chat. I'm looking.
What excites me most is to see a person die.
What excites me most is to see a person die, specifically from COVID, says Rachel. Just kidding.
I'm about to mess this up.
True.
Who is this white chick?
It's Rachel Hollis. She doesn't believe in sickness.
I am not someone who fails.
I am not someone who fails and doesn't get sick.
Let's tune into this ankle.
All those sound bites go to whoever sent that super chat, and I appreciate it. I didn't see it because I think you're on the other stream. Or my thing's broken again. So thank you.
And I probably sound like an insane person right now.
Yeah,
but
you do.
maybe some of you are like hippie granola people too. And you're like, I get you, sister. I just wanted to tell that story because even if you aren't like full tilt all the way, I think that understanding that your mind plays a lot more of a role in your wellness than you understand currently can be huge. You are not required to get the flu this year. You are not required to catch a cold just because everybody else has it. If you're taking care of yourself, you're washing your hands, you're drinking water, you're getting enough sleep, you're making smart choices, you're making mostly smart choices.
You can still get sick. Okay, let's just call it what it is. So yeah, that story was a little bit convoluted, but basically she said that her daughter got it. So she decided like, okay, I will allow myself to get it now. Which like, if you don't need it, why would you want to get it at all? I don't know. None of this makes sense.
You should be able to live in optimum health. But the key to that is you believing that that is something that is possible for you. And that you just don't let those things take up space in your brain. That like if you feel you're like, oh, I'm feeling run down. It's like, have you ever been somewhere and someone will be like, oh, are you okay? And you start to feel sick, even though you felt fine 2 minutes before. It's because your mind is so powerful. So if your mind is that powerful, give it the strength it needs to support your immune system. And that's my hippie advice for today, guys. That's my woo-woo spiritual out there. But I'll tell you what, you might not always track with what sister's saying, but the amount of DMs and emails and calls to the hotline I get from y'all who are like, girl, I thought you were crazy with this manifesting thing, or I thought you were crazy with this mindset conversation. But I just tried it just to see, so like I could tell you if you were wrong, and I will be damned, but this is working for me too. So
Then play it, bitch. Let's play it. Play those because I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Thank you, Courtney. Okay, Joms was focused. He had his focus, or she, I don't know, Joms. I'm not sure. They were focused on the super chat that came in. Thank you. That means you will not get sick this year because it's not required. I am deeming it truthfully. Courtney,
I love you.
says Dave. Courtney says this back to Dave.
I love you too.
And everyone after listening to this podcast is going to say,
What the heck?
what the heck? Okay, we're almost done. This is a wrap up. Thanks, Courtney.
at the very least, it's worth a try. You don't have to like go off in every area that I've let go of things, but I think it's worth a consideration. Those are, I don't know how many things that was, but that's a handful of things that I don't do anymore. And it's worth asking yourself if there's something in your life that you could let go of that's no longer serving you. It's that simple.
Rachel Hollis
Like,
podcast.
oh, there's a great quote.
I should let that go. I should let this go. I mean, it does serve me in the antithesis way, the opposite effect.
Is achieved not by adding more things, but when there's nothing left to take away. I'm not even aiming for perfection over here. I'm just aiming for like a beautiful life. A beautiful life to me means that we let go of things that don't serve us, especially when they were narratives given to us by someone else. They're not narratives that we chose. That's today's episode. I hope you found it helpful. If you dug it, share it with someone that you think.
Share it with everyone who had COVID last year and tell them that it's their fault, you idiot. That'll be a good way to share this podcast around with people. Oh, golly gosh. Oh, golly. I don't even know. I don't even know anything.
I will actually do something obscene for you.
That's what Rachel told Kez when she threw out her razor in defiance. Manifesting, woman-festing. We love it. We believe it. Just kidding, we don't. Okay. That was a lot. That was a lot to process. And now we're going to sort of talk about, we're going to show a video of a person who went to the Rach Talk live event in Joliet, which is a suburb of Chicago. And I think there's a lot of interesting tidbits in it. We're not gonna watch the whole thing because she does like a recap of who Rachel is and reads an excerpt. And and like I said, this person that did the review, she's sort of new to the Rachel Hollis universe. So I found it very interesting, her take on things. But the thing that she read out, what she thought was important in Girl Wash Your Face, was about Pam, which is one of the famous lines, that Pam is not to be trusted because of the Whole30 diet fiasco, that, you know, someone who can't stick to a diet should not be trusted as a friend. That is what Rachel Hollis believed back in 2018. So let's take a look-see at this video. And I thought it was well done. And I really like this creator's personality. And it's, in case anyone wants to follow or watch on their own or sub or anything, Kendra Creates. And I thought I liked her personality. I watched another video of hers about self-help, and I found it to be entertaining. So shout out to Kendra. Thank you, Harley. Harley says, this podcast was ick, but this live is giving me life. This community rocks.
It's giving me life.
This community is giving you life. This is one thing that I have to say, Harley.
Oh, I love that sound.
I do love that sound. And one final one. This is another one I really like.
You want to tell Tony to shove it up Tony's ass.
Am I right? Am I right? Thank you, Harley. Okay, let's see. Here we go. This is called Rach Talk Live Review. I went to a Rachel Hollis personal development event, so you didn't have to. Love it.
Nothing but traffic, and it's raining, and it's gloomy. So, I don't know if this is what's to come, if this is a sign, but we're gonna see how this all is gonna go down. Okay, so this is the place where it's at. I am late, like right now, like 5 minutes late. Traffic was bananas. There were like accidents and everything. So we'll see how it is once I get in here, because I'm late. So now I'm all through security check-in. They scanned my ticket and here I am. They got a bar. This place looks really nice. Some kind of wrap.
I will say, like, the venue looks really nice. Like the outside, I love a good marquee. I really like that about LA and San Diego. There was a lot of like nice signage everywhere at these hotels and at these like diners, and I really enjoyed seeing like these like neon signs or these lights that are like lit up, these signs advertising things. That's not a Florida thing whatsoever, maybe Miami, but outside of Miami, like it's just generic signs and stuff. I really like the character of signs. So, and this venue looks nice, but it looks like not branded. There's nothing in there that screams Rachel Hollis Rise Conference 2.0. So sort of just like the venue itself is nice, but I'm not seeing any decor that I would like. Lillian Massey, thank you. Lillian says, I live for your sound bites and these new ones are giving me life.
Turns out you can have a full life without putting it all on social media.
That's true. Did you know that Dave is
Disneyland dad?
a Disneyland dad? Let's hear from Heidi for a second.
Sounds like your nanny.
Sounds like your nanny. Thank you, Lillian. You sound like my nanny. Okay. Here we go. Back to it.
Let's find the bathroom. Don't know where that is. Oh.
This looks like the courthouse. This is where I did jury duty. That's what it looks like. But it's a beautiful courthouse. But yeah, it's not screaming Rach Talk.
There we go. Bathroom, and then we'll go in.
That looks like the most busy I've seen, like that amount of people. So I think maybe Joliet was like the most popular that I've seen so far, at least based on audience size from the very limited views that I've seen on Instagram. So I will give her credit. That looks like, I mean, I don't think that there's anyone above or anything. And I think she was at the back, but that still looks like more people than were at Alabama and Charleston and wherever else she was.
So where was that clip taken from? You might say a nightclub or a party, or that was taken from a Rachel Hollis event. You guys, we're going to talk about this today, okay?
Okay, we'll skip ahead a little bit.
Hi guys, welcome to my channel if you are new, and welcome back if you've been around here a while. I am Kendra. This is Kendra Creates. This is my space for sharing my weight loss journey with you. Hopefully I'll help you out along the way if you're on a weight loss journey too. You'll get some commentary from me, which we're going to do today, and you'll also learn about me along the way. So if that stuff sounds good to you, then go ahead and make sure you subscribe to my channel. So we're going to get right into it today. We are going to be talking about Miss Rachel Hollis and her Rach Talk live tour. Yeah. So she recently came to the city of Joliet, which is a suburb outside of Chicago, and I was able to attend. I knew that it was coming up months and months and months ago, but I got really hyped up. Like one of my favorite creators, Ilabezalanta, she had posted a video about Rachel Hollis. She did a video about Rachel Hollis. So if you don't know who Rachel Hollis is, go watch her video. She's going to school you about
I have not watched that video yet. I need to.
Her and
I can only take so much Rachel Hollis content though in a week. So I need another vacation so I can watch this in my leisure time.
Everything. And so I made a comment. I was like, I'm thinking about going to the show or whatever. And she was like, do it. So she hyped me up and I went and I did it. And I'm here to report on what happened. So first
Okay, so now she's going to talk about who Rachel is. We all know. We know more than we need to know. Okay, now we're going to talk about the actual event.
Okay, so I was late. So I come in the middle of a story and I don't know what she's talking about. So I have to kind of decipher what she's talking about because I'm in the middle of a story. So basically, she was in some large venue and it was in Dallas. And she had a panic attack. And then she felt like she was about to poop herself. And
so this is the story she told on Lisa Billy's podcast, where I'm assuming that she was at the Paul McCartney concert. Now, I guess, okay, we have the added detail that I was in Dallas. Didn't know that one before. And that she was going to poop herself. Now, she told this exact story, I'm pretty sure, at another venue so in Birmingham, I believe. And she said, because originally, right, she was like, it's, Rachie's could wear the shirts and travel to all the different locations to watch me because it's going to be different every city. But this story has been told on a podcast or on Lisa Billy's YouTube channel, at least two of the event venues, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And now she's adding more details to make it more juicy. And of course, more bodily functions to just, solidify that it's a Rachel Hollis story. And now like the lesson of the story, which is interesting.
She was there with her boyfriend. So this is after her divorce or whatever. So she's there with her boyfriend, and she talks about how like he was trying to like be nice to her, to cajole her, to get her to snap out of it or whatever the case. And she didn't start coming around, I guess, until he started being mean to her. And then he made a statement, something about if they put her on the stretcher in the ambulance, then people are going to come out of the arena, like 15,000 people, and they're going to see her on a stretcher on an ambulance or something. And she didn't want that. And so she jumped off the ambulance. And
I don't know if that means she was in the ambulance and she was like, I'm going to get out now. Or just she decided like she's not going to call 911, because she didn't talk about any ambulance before in the Lisa Bilyeu take. She said that she had a panic attack. She told Kez that she was having a panic attack and that they had to leave, and that he was super amazing about it. And then she went out to the concession stand and laid on the floor because it was cold, and that people thought she was drunk, but that whatever. And then that was it. That was the story. Now I've heard through the little clips that I've seen that, or people talking on Reddit that allegedly were there in the audience, that Kez was really mean to her and that snapped her out of it. And that was the only way that, you know, she can learn or something. I don't know. It just seems like she changes the story based on like what she wants you to feel about her at that given moment. None of it makes sense to me.
And the next day or whatever, she was basically saying to him how, like, you were mean to me. Like, why were you mean? And he was like, everything else I was trying to do wasn't working. And so her whole point of that story was to say, hold on, I wrote it down. What you need doesn't come how you want it to. So I guess she needed to be snapped out of her panic attack. And so the only way that was to happen was for her boyfriend to be mean to her. And so I guess it was just a moment to where the audience could
It's like, so maybe Dave didn't show you romance to prove to you that romance is important to you. No. Okay. Different take than that. Got it. All right.
relate to her. She does a lot of this. And if you watch like any type of anti-MLM content, they talk about this a lot. They talk about how people hook you and persuade you into listening to a certain message through the art of storytelling. So she does this a lot through her entire show, even when the point is not about her. And we'll talk about that too. But she does this a lot. And this is...
And yeah, the thing with Kez is like, Kez left her on the mountain. She's like, whatever, we hate him. Do I have that on here? No, hold on. I'll find it. We hate him.
We hate him. Whatever.
That's her talking about Kez. He didn't give her tickets until she asked to go to this concert that she was going to go to. She had to be like, hey, I want to go. And he's like, I'll just pay. And he's like, no, I'll pay for you. I don't know. There's been a lot of red flags with Kez from the beginning, but she doesn't want to see it, or that she's convinced, like how she was convinced with Dave, that he's the best guy for me, until retrospectively, if he breaks up with her or they break up, then it'll be like he was the worst guy ever. And she also said recently that Kez, like she had a earache or something because her partner wasn't hearing her or something. I don't know. Who knows? There's a lot of things that are wrong with her interpretation of her and Kez's relationship. But of course, there's always a positive lesson to learn from it. So whatever.
Let's tune into this ankle.
This is how she hooks the audience. She talks about this thing with the panic attack or whatever, and she makes this amazing statement. What you need doesn't come how you want it to. Which makes sense. I'll give her that. Because sometimes we may need something or want something or think something, and it just doesn't fall into our laps, or it just doesn't come how we expect it to.
Great point,
or sometimes
Andrea.
we have to be patient for it to happen or whatever. So she makes good points throughout her program, her talk, whatever you want to call this thing. She makes very good points. I'm not gonna say that she isn't like making good points, because she is. Her delivery, I could do without that. And she has this a lot, which brings me to my next point. So she makes a statement that some people on the internet, when they see...
Yeah, I don't agree with that. What she says is right. I mean, it could be, but it's like, it really does depend on like the source. Like, you know, I think like the quote, like sometimes things come the way you don't want them to. Yeah, obviously. That's true. But why am I paying $50 to hear someone who has no business giving advice tell me that? I don't. So it sort of takes away the point of the context. But she's a new Rachel Hollis, not convert, but she's a new Rachel Hollis knower. So she probably doesn't know all of the craziness.
Women jumping up and down in her events. They say, ooh, it's a cult. And people start laughing. Like, people did that a lot throughout this whole thing. They were laughing. And I was just like, I don't find anything funny, but I noticed that she uses humor and very like non-humorous things, like her panic attack. Mm-hmm. She talked about binge eating. She talked about like drinking and being an alcoholic. Yeah, like all...
I cannot fucking believe that I believe she did it, but I cannot fucking believe that she's in person at these events talking about being an alcoholic while she's also meanwhile saying, I can't wait to be on vacation and drink tequila. I drank a bottle of vodka, I love drinking. Oh, but I'm an alcoholic, so I'm relatable. It's like, I cannot believe that.
All of this stuff was like done from like a humorous perspective. And honestly, I think that's another way like she works to like connect with the audience. She uses humor, which is a good thing. You know, that's definitely one good way that you could try to connect with your audience is be humorous, make them laugh. Ha 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 ha. Although I didn't laugh not one time. I felt maybe like my sense of humor is not like her audience's sense of humor at all. Speaking of her audience, y'all, there was no diversity at that place. Okay, so, I'm Black, as you can tell. And a lot of us are hyper aware of our surroundings. And I grew up in the South. Okay, y'all know what I'm getting at, okay? So I went to LSU and I would be in classes where there were like hundreds of students in there, literally hundreds of students. And I could probably count like 2 or 3 Black kids in the class. Like, yeah. So we're very hyper aware of our surroundings. And I mean, there was maybe 1,000 people at this event. I don't even think it was 1,000 though. Let's just say it was 1,000. I looked and I saw and I observed because I was on my investigative journalism tip. That's why I was there. And so I had a seat towards the back because I wasn't going to pay premium price for her ticket. So as everybody was exiting towards the end of...
I'm shocked to hear that even close to 1,000 people were there. Like I said, it looked like more. And there's no videos of like the room because obviously she doesn't want to show that there's not 1 million people there. In my opinion, like I think why she's not showing the venue space like filled to the brim, because I'm sure they would. I saw so many Rise conferences from the back, you know, like how many women were there. You could easily see how popular these were. I think strategically they're not showing the venues, but I'm surprised that 1,000 are there. We can look, I don't know if we can look back at the ticket sales now that it's closed, but I mean, maybe, who knows? Maybe there was, but it just didn't seem like there's that many sales, even in the more sold out ones, which was Juliet.
Of the program or whatever, I kind of like held back and I was just looking and observing and seeing how things were, like the vibe or whatever. And I maybe saw about like 5 Black people. Yeah. And I know that there were non-presenting other people of color there. I can't say like what their racial ethnicity was because I can't tell. But that's just kind of goes to show you the demographic that Rachel Hollis appeals to. I mean, it was like I was like at a sorority convention. So anyways, back to the cold and jumping up and down and everything. So she talks about dancing to keep your energy. And so that's why she has people dancing at her events, like jumping up and down and being energetic, because that's what she does. Like if she finds herself like losing energy or whatever. So this is also another way that she uses to kind of reel in her audience. She has the audience do these dances. Okay, so she has every city she goes to, everyone picks the song that they want to dance to, but they don't really get to pick it. She has a DJ play a song and then they vote or whatever. So anyways, the Yin Yang Twins song wound up being the energetic song that they danced to. This song came out, let me see, because
yeah, it's the one that she played at the beginning. It's like, from the windows to the wall, to the sweat drop down these balls, all these bitches crawl, all skeet, 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 all skeet, skeet, goddamn. It's very on brand with the women empowerment movement. All these bitches crawl, skeet, skeet, skeet. Okay, I'm like Ben Shapiro now.
I remember this song. Okay, and I know that I look, you know,
I ain't gonna lie. I listen to this song every time I run for the most part. I am not saying I'm above this song, but to play it in like a formerly Christian only women's group, surprising. I'm surprised by it.
Very conservative and, you know, very motherly like, and maybe I'm an old lady to some. Maybe I am. But back in the day, I used to, you know, I used to party. I used to party a lot, you know. I used to do my thing and everything. And I swear, every single time they played this song, I cringed a little bit on the inside because I was just like, why? But yeah, this was the song that everyone played. I'm just trying to see how old this song is. It's very old.
2005?
This came out when I was like
2004?
in college, high school, getting ready to go to college, getting ready to go to high school. Yeah, so it's really old. But anyways, y'all, this is the song that they played every time for the audience to get energized to. And y'all, they were really feeling this song. And so, like, I can't lie. The lady is very charismatic. She caters to her audience. She knows what to do. She knows how to hook them. She
came out in 2002. It's called Salt Shaker by the Yin Yang Twins.
She knows how to get them interested. So that's kind of what she did with this whole dancing situation and the music thing. All right, so we're going to get into it with her first talking point. Now, she made a great point when she talks about goals and talks about how we see ourselves compared to other people. And she talks about in this day and age with social media. And so she talks about we are looking at everyone else's finish line with filters, which makes perfect sense. And I feel like this is something that I've talked about before when I talked about this a lot, about like keeping up with the Joneses, about how social media is fake. Like I've talked about this stuff before, and just it goes along with like comparing yourselves to others and all of this stuff. And that's a lot of what we kind of like go through when we're on a weight loss journey. We're constantly doing that. And it can be very depressing. And she talks about looking up to the Elon Musks of the world, but not necessarily looking up to teachers. And she talks about people having...
Shut up, Rachel. No one looks up to teachers anymore. No one looks up to cleaning ladies who clean the toilets anymore. What is wrong with you guys?
She cleans the toilets.
She wants to be Tony fucking Robbins and Oprah Winfrey, but everyone else shouldn't look up to Elon Musk. Okay.
I do not give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck, Rachel.
Certain types of dreams. So just like people, I want to go to college, I want to be a teacher, this is what I want to do. And nothing is wrong with having that dream. And she talked about that. But social media in the world thinks that you're supposed to be like a billionaire, like Elon Musk or whatever, which I can feel. She hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, of course. Social media does that, not Rachel telling you literally you are made for more. No, it's just social media.
And she says, your dream has worth because you have worth. So like I said, she makes great points, but then I feel like she honestly like backtracks on her points. Because she says you can have these dreams that you want to do, but then she also like says you have to dream bigger. You have to do more. You have to make sure that like men or people or society or whoever can't tell you that you can't do something. Gosh darn it. If somebody want to be a teacher, let them people be a teacher, because it needs more of those people in this world. Because I don't want to teach K through 12. No. So let those people be a teacher. So
also nursing and being a doctor. I don't want to do that. So please never give up your dream about getting into the medical profession, because without you, people like me would just be like, well, I guess we're all going to die. Because I don't like medical stuff.
I feel like she did this a lot throughout her whole talk. Was she basically, I felt like she said one thing and then said the complete opposite. And it made me think, because I'm deep thinking about this, I'm like not in the moment. Like I'm not drinking the Rachel Hollis Kool-Aid.
Good.
So I'm just thinking like people are going to eat this up. Whether they are thinking big long range goals, like I want to own a yacht, or they're thinking very like normal goals, like I just want to buy a home. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck, you know, like, or I want to go back to school, I want to graduate, like stuff like that, like, you know, kind of like everyday like type goals. So I felt like she does that. She talks from both sides, and honestly they really tend to like,
that's the biggest thing that I also feel validated that an outsider sees this too, is like within the same piece of work that Rachel will do, like a chapter of a book or a podcast or an interview, she will say something and then 20 seconds later say the complete opposite and not see it within herself. It's so frustrating and so confusing, but also very confirming that she is not thinking deeply enough about the advice that she's giving out, because she contradicts herself constantly all the time.
Go against each other, if that makes sense. And then she did some meditation exercise, which I'm not gonna talk about. Like, I don't care enough. It was like 15 minutes of her just talking and
True.
People deep thinking. I honestly think it was just like for people to kind of get emotional and to people to kind of like deep think, because she was saying something about people passing away and something about thinking about 5 years and you've accomplished all these goals. So you're going from one very grief-stricken extreme to one very, very happy extreme. So I think that's enough.
I think that's what they call in the biz emotional manipulation. And you see it with all these gurus, like Cam. I don't think she's still here, but Cam did a video about Ed Millett, who's an MLM guy who's now an inspirational, motivational speaker. And he did this whole thing, I think at like doTERRA or one of the MLM conferences. I'm not sure which one. I believe it's an MLM conference. And he spoke on stage about his dad dying. And like his dad's last words were like, sell another, get another recruit or something like along those lines. Basically in the sense of like, he was like, you know, trying to get people's emotions, talking about his dad's death and like tying it back into like how important business is, you know, to him. And yeah, that's the whole shtick. It's like, take people, tell them your sob story, embellish it to the 10th degree, try to make it as like, you know, like you can't hear this without feeling something and relating it back to your own life. Like divorce, death, parental issues, sibling issues, whatever. Make it really, really heart-wrenching and then twist it and go, now I'm going to offer you the solution. Join Monate, join my, you know, online life coaching course, buy my book, whatever. It's a very simple method. Get them sad, offer them a happiness through whatever financial thing you're offering to sell them, and then profit. Does it work all the time? I don't know, but it is definitely a method.
Another way, kind of like she is playing on people's emotions and getting them very, like, I can't explain it, but just very like hyper aware of, oh my gosh, like I have to think about this. Like I have to do this. Like I have to think about my goal because, you know, time may pass me by and I just have to do this. I have to get on it. So meditation, not even worth talking about. Then she does this little exercise where she tells everybody in the room to partner up and to think about your dream. So you're going to share this dream with your partner and you tell each other your dream or whatever. And the whole point of it is so that when you leave here tonight, someone is going to pray about your dream, or someone is going to speak life or give energy to your dream. And when you think about back to this evening, then you forever have someone to root you or cheer you on in your dreams.
Rooting.
Ain't nobody gonna do that. Like, after you leave here tonight, no one is gonna care what you told them what their dream is. Just being real.
I liked that part. Dave loves Kendra.
I love you.
So true. It's like, I made a joke the other day. It was like, oh my gosh, like if I can't go to Rach Talk Live, my whole life won't change for the better from this one-time event for 2 hours. Like the way that, you know, she decided to market it at the end, right before tickets were like, you know, right before the event was starting, it was like, this is life-changing, guys. This is life-changing. It's going to change your life. Start your dreams, whatever. It's like, come on, build a community in 2 hours and in an auditorium in the dark with Yin Yang Twins playing. It ain't gonna happen. Be realistic. Come on.
And so,
I love that she also agrees.
So after the whole dream exercise, she once again tries to relate to the audience through the art of storytelling. She talks about like trying and failing things because probably everyone has experienced failure. So she wants people to know that even Rachel Hollis failed, you know, but that doesn't mean anything because you can still be on this stage. You can still accomplish your goals and you can still make things happen because if I did it, anybody can do it. Yeah, she's saying this. And then she talks about like people indulging in vices like she did because once again, she wants the audience to relate to her. That's how she connects. And she talks about her binge eating. She talks about her drinking. And then she talks about, what are you doing? Are you engaging in this activity that's no good for you? And then she talks about how she started opening up and blogging about her anxiety. And that kind of changed her life along with attending a self-development conference. And she talks about how...
Rachel, you had a panic attack this year. I don't think attending Tony Robbins 5 years ago solved your anxiety problem. I'm just going to say that.
Hyped up she was about going to that conference, and it changed her life. And I think that was honestly a plug for people to start on that self-development train. You guys, if you have not saw my video about the toxic world of self-development, please make sure you check that out because it's a mess. She talks about...
Kendra, you're invited on Cringefluencers or on this channel anytime. We'll catch you up on all the stuff and you can catch us up on what you know because you're like stage one of I think where I want to keep going on is like the uncovering of how fucked up this whole industry is. So you're welcome to come on anytime as a fellow creator.
All of this and storytelling and trying to make light of very serious situations with humor and all of this to connect with her audience, even though she doesn't want to be relatable. This girl a mess, y'all. All right, so that leads me to my final part of what I want to talk about this whole little talk or whatever. So the final thing that I want to talk about is we talked about those dreams, right? So she wraps it all up and she has someone share their dream with the entire room. So I feel like...
Okay, and her name is Kendra and it's called It's called Kendra Creates if you're interested. So this part, I thought she was very, very smart, and I don't know if I would have picked up on it. And I think she's really onto something here when she's doing like the Tony Robbins style, where she hands one person in the audience the microphone to like engage in this one-on-one, breakthrough moment that's very famous in the Tony Robbins world, where, someone goes up there and goes, "I hate my life." And he's like, "Don't think that." And it's like, "Oh, he's cured." Like, that's very typical Tony Robbins conference. So this is the Rachel Hollis version of it. And the way that Kendra points out, I think what she points out and how she points it out, I was like, oh, wow, that is great insight and something that I think is very true and helps me almost see like the planning that goes on in Rachel's head when she's engaging in these one-on-one conversations.
Like she purposefully chose someone that she feel like would be kind of like an inspiration to everybody. And she chose a Latina woman. And
this beautiful Latina woman.
Interesting that Rachel also brought up the name or brought up a Latina woman, beautiful Latina woman.
And she asked her what her dream was. And the lady said that she wanted to go back to school and pursue a prominent career field. And then Rachel basically started filling her mouth with words. Because of the way that she was asking questions, she wasn't asking very open-ended questions. So the lady really couldn't tell her story to the audience that she wanted to tell herself. It was more of Rachel's story.
Oh yeah, shout out to Helen.
Shout out to Helen.
I wonder if that is the same person, because Helen was the one that was in the VIP event, not the one, well, she could be both, but maybe she's combining two people into one and calling her Helen.
Who is this white chick?
It's Rach. Okay.
That she wanted to tell to the audience. So basically, Rachel asked the lady, how would, achieving this or having this career change your family's life financially or change her life financially? What's up with the finances? Okay. So the lady made the statement that she would open up a nonprofit, which was like, everybody was like, oh yeah, that's what's up. Okay. So y'all, you ask me what my dream is. My dream is to have this prominent career so where I can make enough money to eventually open up a nonprofit. That's my dream. But then you tell me, no. Something else needs to be your dream. Basically, that's what she did to this woman, y'all. So after the lady said that, then Rachel Hollis says something else. And y'all, I'm so paraphrasing, and I wish.
She did not say that. Oh my God. Okay. Mariette, I'm so sorry. I know I said that last time. I couldn't pronounce it right. Mariette says, Rachel even said that if she didn't go to law school, she could do what Kim Kardashian did and pass the bar and do it that way as if it was just so easy. She would say something like that. That's very on brand. I would just think about it. I would just go, I'm a lawyer now. And I would tell everyone that asked, I'm legal. And then it would be. Thank you for that anecdote.
Wish that I could have gotten everything down. But she asks her another leading question. That's what they call them, leading questions. It's like when you want someone to answer a question in a certain way, so you'll phrase that question to where they have no other choice but to answer it in the way that you want them to answer it in. That's what she was doing. So then she said something about, Rachel tells the audience, you are allowed to want something for you and your family. So basically, and she tried to pose it from this good point of view. Oh, don't worry about, there's no judgment if you don't open up that nonprofit right away. You're allowed to do something for you and your family. But the lady said what she wanted to do. And then Rachel asks her, so who would you do something for in your life? And she's like, oh, my mom. Of course, my mom made it. So she's going to do something for her mom. So would you buy her a house? And the lady says, yes. And then Rachel says, oh yeah, that was one of my proudest days when I was able to pay off my parents' mortgage. Didn't nobody nobody asked you that. Like, she asked her that question so she could talk about paying off her parents' mortgage. That's why she asked her that question. And then Rachel makes a statement about people think that, you know, we just get money and we get a golden jet and we're off popping bottles, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, but Rachel, your company was bringing in $20 million in revenue. You were getting paid $100,000 to $200,000 per speaking engagement. If you wanted to rent a private jet, you could. If you wanted to pop bottles every single day of the week, you could. And you still can do that now. I feel like she was really trying to be relatable to her audience to say that, oh, you know, I just paid off my parents' mortgage. No big deal. People can't even get a mortgage these days, let alone pay off their parents' mortgage. And I just felt like, girl, what are you talking about? Okay. And then she asked the lady, so would you take family vacations? And the lady's like, yeah, of course. Who wouldn't take a family vacation, right? Like, you got money now. So, and then Rachel takes the time to talk about Hawaii. If you don't know, Rachel, like, they go to Hawaii. That's what they do. I don't know how y'all feel about tourism in Hawaii, but...
It's like the buffet of the Rachel Hollis story at these live events, apparently. She's got the, like, oh, the money, the first class, you know, flights, the Hawaii, the panic, the pooping, the peeing. She's got it all. There's a little bit of all of them. And again, just so you know, her name is...
From what
Kind Kendra Creates. I'm very much enjoying her take on this.
Heard like natives don't like that. Like, Google it, it's a thing. Like, I don't know anything about it. I've never been to Hawaii. Like, but yeah. So I just feel like she gave the time the woman to talk and to like tell her story and to like talk about her goal and like what she wanted to accomplish and everything. And Rachel just took the lead on it. She just basically said, okay, you don't worry about that nonprofit. You should go buy your mom a house and take family vacations. What? I don't know. I don't know, y'all. All right, so let's talk about like my ending thoughts on this whole entire situation. She's a hell of a storyteller. And this is how she hooks her audience. She also hooks them by being charismatic. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like the girl that everybody likes, you know, that has a story for something. She's so interesting. She's so fun to be around, you know. But also someone that you can look up to, someone who's accomplished a lot in their lives, someone who has something very important to say, and I want to make sure that I hear it. So that's the kind of person that she comes off to be. She comes off to be humorous. I mean, she had the audience in stitches. I didn't think anything was funny, but the audience did. And the whole entire time I'm listening and everybody's just like, yes, yes, yes. When she's like asking the audience questions and people are clapping and they're laughing. It reminded me of church. It reminded me a lot of someone saying a scripture. I mean, someone giving a sermon. And it didn't come from like the Bible. It came from the book of Rachel Hollis. So with every story was a lesson to be learned and how you can take that back to your own personal life and hopefully improve it, I guess. Y'all, I don't know. Okay, I don't know. All I know is that if you are looking for personal self-development, I do not recommend going to a Rach Talk Live. I don't recommend going to a Rachel Hollis event. You should save your money. I paid, her tickets were $35, $45, and $55. You know I wasn't paying that much for this. Along with Ticketmaster fees, it wound up being like $50. So y'all like this video, please, because I sacrificed my time and my $50. Please like this video, okay? I went to this event, so you didn't have to, and you don't have to. Like, you don't have to go to her event. You don't have to go to anyone's event. I mean, unless you like really like them and like look up to them and like you've read their book and like, I don't know, okay? I don't judge. But like, if you're like leaning on the fence, should I really like, no, you should not. Okay, take that $50 and like go get a pedicure. I don't know. Do some self-care. I don't know. But like I said in my last video about self-development, go to the library, get a library card and like check out library books. If you're not a very good reader, they also have options to where you can check out audiobooks and you can just listen to the book. Okay? So I'm going to end this video with telling you to do your own self-development. Self-development does not have to cost a dime. You do not have to spend any money on self-development. There was nothing that was moving when I went to this event that is going to propel my life forward and teaching me lessons that I didn't already know. Things like that, they come with time. They come with experience. They come with a guide. So if you want to invest in a life coach, invest in a counselor, a therapist.
There you go.
You want to do some, invest in a dietitian, registered dietitian, so that you can start eating more healthily. If that's one of the things that you want to do and the goals that you want to, like, if that's what you want to do, make sure you get your sleep at night. Make sure you drink more water. I don't know, y'all. I don't have the answers, but I know that going to a self-development talk is probably not the answer. Y'all, if you like this torturous thing that I went through, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel to see myself be put through more torture that I don't deserve. Y'all make sure you spread kindness in a world full of hate, and I will see you next time.
Or spread hate in a world full of kindness. Whatever you want to do. I'm down. Yes, Kendra Creates. We stand Kendra. I thoroughly enjoy. Wait, hold on. That's not loud enough. We need another one for Kendra. She gets it. She gets it. I loved it. It's nice to feel validated sometimes, isn't it, guys? Yes, you're welcome. Someone found it, or someone messaged me on Instagram, the video, and then I also saw it in the Reddit thread. So it's also there. If you're part of the Hollis Uncensored Reddit thread, there's a link there as well. I thought that was very humorous and accurate and smart and a good take on things. My only thing is skip over the life coach, go directly to therapy. I did the life coach step first, and it did help me. It did help me in the time, but it helped me until it didn't. You know what I mean? Yeah, you feel me? You feel me?
Let's tune into this ankle.
And call it a day. I got to get ready for my engagement, my event that I have to do tonight. And I will let you know when the second stream is. It might be tomorrow, but it also might be Thursday. I'm thinking more Thursday, so I have time to prepare. All about Bethany Frankel. Bethany, frankly annoying and hypocritical. And I'm going to also do some parallels between Bethany Frankel and Rach, because there's quite a lot, actually. They they're very different in many ways, but they're very similar. And what they're being called out for is very similar too, which I find to be interesting. Oh, thank you, Stella Black. Thank you so much. Okay. Oh my gosh. Says, no need to read this aloud. Just happy that you introduced us to her and that you're giving us therapy that we need to go after. I read it as quickly as possible. Oh, it came up here. You're giving us the therapy that we need after that turd burger of a podcast. Anytime. I will provide that as long as it's available for me.
Being a dick.
As long as I'm not being a dick, I'm good.
You want to tell Tony to shove it up Tony's ass.
That's what I want to say. I think Kendra would agree. And if you were curious about what I'm doing tonight, this is what I'm doing.
I'm outside the Cheesecake Factory waiting for it to open.
I'll be outside the Cheesecake Factory. I'll see you there. And thank you to everyone who was watching and sending all of the super chats and super stickers and all that. I really appreciate it. It does help me eventually transition into a full-time non-worker so I can do more videos. But no pressure. Never any pressure, for real. I'll make a journal that you can buy, and then, I'll sell 1 million of them, and then we can just do this all day long. And I'll get my husband, whenever I get married, to also be the CEO. So then I can just profit. And if you want to join membership, more emojis are coming. There's a couple that I made at TwitchCon that I can use. And then there's one more Rach branded one. Well, Hollisville equivalent, if you're interested. So if you're on the fence about joining the membership, there's two options. There's a lower price one and a higher price one, and either one you get the emojis so you can participate. And if you're in the higher price one, the Pancake Breakfast Club, you get your name at the beginning and at the end of all the streams. And that's where we're at in the show. So thank you again to my members. Thank you everyone here. Peace out. Goodbye. See you soon. Thanks to Kendra. Shout out to Kendra. Shout out to Helen. There's Colleen. Okay, bye.